Hello everybody. Hello. Welcome. Yes, hello Mary. Hi. Yes, we are going to be looking at that New York deposition tonight. Yes, hello, welcome. So for those of you just joining me, can you let me know, am I in frame okay? Is the document in frame? If that's hopefully, hello, hi, welcome. Yes, it's in frame. Okay, great. Yes, we've got some paperwork to go through tonight. Oh, this deposition, my goodness. It's a lot. We'll just say that. It's a lot. Gonna learn something this evening. I hope so. I hope so. All right, let me just plug in my extra battery here. So just one moment, please. If it closes down, it'll just take a second. Okay, there we go. Should be all right. Yes, good evening. Well, I had a request again for my mood ring, so I brought this one back. I think it's fun to watch the colors change. So for tonight, Law of the Wild. It isn't exactly that particularly excited, except for when you look at the $250 million. That part is kind of exciting. Hello. Yes, hello, everybody. Yeah, not black yet. The night is young. This deposition is absolutely fantastic. Peter, just wanted to tell you I'm legally blind, so thank you for reading these. Oh, Peter, you're welcome. You are welcome. Happy to do that. Yeah, 250 million. Yes, indeed. That's a lot. So we've got a lot of things at play for sure. But this deposition has a lot of interesting information in it that I think can be used. Well, I know the deposition itself, lots of different places where the information can be done. So when we're doing a deposition, of course, we are sworn in. The people are typically sworn in. You do need to tell the truth. You can't invoke your Fifth Amendment right. The only one you haven't printed, yes, and I've only printed half of it. It is almost, how many pages is it? Just to double check here, it is 479 pages. So I did not print the entire thing out, but I think we can make it through some really good information. Yes, VC, 500 pages. It's a lot. You again, I'm so glad to see you here. I know it's like a holiday. It is real life. It is, but it's Monday. My Mondays and Thursdays, I always make sure I go live. So anything else is a bonus, but I do try on Mondays and Thursdays. So what are you doing to Mark Meadows? Well, personally, nothing at this point. Is there concrete evidence? Well, we're specifically looking at the deposition tonight. So I like to put this up because it gives you the case number here and it gives you the exact name of the case. So this is an order back from 2022, but this is the case we'll be talking about tonight. This is the one where we've got the AG, EJ. Oh my gosh, words are working. The AG out of New York, and these are the people all named as defendants here. So she was given permission. It took a lot of work actually to do a full deposition of Mr. Trump. So we'll be going through his deposition, part of it tonight. Where can I find this at? Sure. So you just want to go online, and the search term I used was people of the state of New York versus Trump deposition. and you'll find probably 10 different sites with access to it. I don't cite a specific site because there's just, depending on where you're at in the US, there'll be different accesses to it. So what's the difference between a deposing versus an indictment? Sure, a deposition, and again, this is a civil lawsuit. So keep that in mind. The worst that'll happen is the loss of money or an injunction in this case. And a deposition means you're pulling in someone and you're asking them questions essentially under oath. So they need to be truthful. And in criminal cases, of course, when we have indictments, you cannot ask the defendant anything. I mean, you can, but there's Miranda rights and so on. But when we're in a civil case, deposition is part of the discovery process. So we can get a court reporter to come in or a videographer, as in this case, and we ask a whole bunch of questions, and that's how we go about finding further information. This is my happy face. Oh dear. Yes, I've got the mood ring on tonight. That was a special request for tonight. So can you have a post-it with the doc title and case number for the screen for people who came in? Sure. So, right, let me just, one moment, grab the title and the name here. So we have, under this case, the people of the state of New York. Versus Trump. And then I believe the rest of it is just et al. We can just use et al. Here. So, and also you want to keep in mind that we've got the Judge Engoron is the name. So we have an index number and the motion date. Also, this is the docket number, so which document it was actually here. But let me put the actual index number on here so people can take a look at it. It's 452564 2022. So that's the case we'll be looking at. Yes. What about government immunity in civil cases? You'll want to look to Clinton versus Jones and U.S. v. Nixon. Those set out presidential immunity. So the time frame also in this case is 10 years. So we've got the time in which Mr. Trump was the president versus the time in which he was not the president. So we've got a couple different categories of timing involved here. So they're definitely the defendant is trying to put that defense forward on immunity, but immunity is not absolute, so we still have accountability. What kind of attorney am I? Well, right now I'm a teaching attorney. That's what I'm doing here. So screenshot. Yes, here you go. This is the name of the case here. This is an order from October. So Yes. And in civil cases, we have upon a preponderance of the evidence. That's the burden in a civil case, which is much different than a criminal case. But in this case, they are asking $250 million in damages, along with an injunction to not be able to do any kind of business dealings in New York. There were a couple of filings where Miss Ivanka is now not a part of this. She was the only one that was kind of removed from the situation. But other than that, we've got lots of different people involved here. We've got his kids involved. We've got lots of people involved. So, Oh, Vanessa, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right, so I will go ahead and get started. We've got a lot of information to go through here. This is the business case. Empathy. Yeah, this is the business case. I was involved in a police auto accident. Will I make it? I do have my messages open on TikTok, so if you've got questions that you can message me. Well, he throws the boys under the bus wheels and saves Ivanka. VC, yeah. Why was she removed? Do you know? I do not know. I've not read through all of those orders yet, but yeah, she was removed. Oh, hi, Sequin, welcome. Do you think he'll get convicted? Hard to know at this point. This is the civil case, so this is the New York case. Yeah, she flipped. Well, I think Ivanka is definitely incredibly intelligent in some ways, for sure. She hasn't signed anything since 2016. That does help, doesn't it? That does help. Well, you can feel free, Jim, to... Oh, and Jim's gone. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Yes. Now, just to any of my moderators, just so you know, I put the mute on tonight for 5 minutes. So if people start coming back after 5 minutes, I'll leave it up to you. If they just are continuing to be troublesome, you can, go ahead and make that a longer period of time. We'll be starting here in just a minute. I will be getting going in just a minute. Yeah, VC, you got it. You know what you're doing. So I just am so thankful for your time. So excellent. Thanks, Mads Nature. Thank you so much. Hilarious how people refuse to see the evidence. Yeah, there's a lot of evidence. There's a lot. There's a lot. Thank you, Emil. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks, CJ. I appreciate that. Yeah, I just did it because we had, we had a few muted people we were looking for the other night. So I thought, well, just put it on there. But, yeah, it's a timeout, Daisy. Exactly. Just a bit of a timeout. And if they can come back and we're all right, then that's just fine. But that also then gives us some wiggle room for error because it gets bonkers. So, nope, we're just starting Mysterious Mystery. We are just getting started. Welcome. Welcome. Yes. All right. Yes. Well, everyone, are we ready? Are we ready to get started? Let's go ahead and do that. Again, this is the civil case, and I will just be reading through the deposition. So it's fascinating. There's a lot of information involved, a lot. So I'll see what we can get through tonight. I'm not going to make it all the way through. Also, just keep in mind, I've color-coded everything because of course, but anyone who is highlighted in orange are the attorneys for the defendant. So there are a lot of objections that are brought up, and I'll talk kind of about what those objections mean. But anytime you see any of his attorneys objecting or any of those things, are all highlighted in orange. So the government is highlighted in pink. So their attorneys, you'll see a couple of their attorneys coming in multiple places. So orange is for the defendant and pink will be for the government here. So again, this is a civil lawsuit. All right, let's dive in. We have a videotape deposition of Donald J. Trump, New York. Oh, you're welcome, Barbara. You're welcome. Thanks for stopping by. New York, and this deposition was taken April 13th, so really not that long ago. Here's the case number here, the index number if you're looking for it. This is a civil case. Now here's just some information. I am going to skip through this opening information. There are the attorneys here of record, so again, just to highlight, these are the 4 attorneys for the defendant, and then we have the government attorneys as well. Also listed are different exhibits. Now, just in the interest of time, because this is really a lot, it's a lot. Yes, October, the first week in October, that's correct. You got it. So I'm not going to take you through the exhibits. I think it will just take up too much time, but the exhibits are listed here. They do refer to them, and then the page number as well. But I will say that it's pretty clear what they're talking about, so we don't have any big mysteries on what they're saying. So I will go ahead and just kind of skip here. Again, this opening piece where the stenographer is in here, and we've got Miss James is the attorney for the state. These are the Attorney General's office attorneys coming in. So I think there's a few really excellent comments that they're both stating at the beginning, so I will go ahead and go through those. So here we go. Allow me to introduce the members of the Attorney General's office who are in this room. And then here we have them here. Welcome back, Mr. Trump, and thank you. We appreciate your appearance here today and your willingness to answer our questions. Allow me to state my appearance for the record, which is very normal. We always have to do that because everything that's taken down are just words. So I am Letitia James, the Attorney General of the state of New York. While this case has been hard fought, I believe that the judicial process works works best when the fact finder has access to all relevant information. Our fact finder, of course, will be our jury. And so we look forward to hearing your testimony on the facts of this case. I also want to assure you that despite the heated rhetoric that may be used by others outside of these proceedings, my team and I committed to a fair and impartial legal process. Our goal here is to find the truth. And so with that, let me walk through some of the preliminaries we discussed when you were here back in August. I think you confirmed that you had testified under oath many times and that you were familiar with the ground rules for how the testimony proceeds. I will note that this time we are proceeding with the deposition under the provision of the New York Civil Practice Law and rules that govern civil actions, and not, let's just make sure, again, we're setting out the rules here. Provisions that govern an investigative examination. So it will be a little different. So she's setting out again what the rules are. Most importantly, we are limited to 7 hours today. Yikes, under the rules. And while our office can ask the court for more time if needed, we hope that will not be necessary. So we plan to proceed as efficiently as possible to complete this examination within the permitted 7 hours. Yikes. We are aiming for a lunch break at 1:30. We will try to keep the breaks short, but at some point, if you need a break, please let us know. As long as there is not a question pending, we will be able to accommodate it. Stipulation. Stipulation means both parties have agreed to something. I will note that we have agreed to a stipulation with counsel, notably that an objection made by any one counsel for the defendants may be made by one counsel's side of the defendant's side will be deemed an objection on behalf of all defendants. Is that agreed, Ms. Haba? She says, yes, it is agreed. Now, let me pause here for a minute. You can put objections into the record on a deposition, but typically the other side will still push to have it answered. So by making a record of objections, we make it so that if there's a question, we can ask the judge about it. Now, are you still forced to answer? It'll depend on the situation. You'll kind of see Miss James pushing through the objections, but it's always good to have it on the record. And what she's saying here is you've got 4 attorneys involved, and so if one attorney makes an objection, we will respect that as an objection for your entire team. So that's just kind of how objections work during depositions. But a lot of times objections can get out of control and are used as a way to prevent a particular person from having to answer a question. So we just have to be careful when we're doing depositions that we get the information that, you're entitled to get under the deposition rules in your civil code, but also that we're respecting the objections. So we make a nice clean record of it. So just a little background there for objections. And there are quite a few objections. Okay, if the defense attorney objects, you still need to answer the question unless your attorney instructs you not to answer. Do you understand that? And the witness is Mr. Trump? Yes. Miss James, you also have a right under the Fifth Amendment, as you know, to refuse to answer a question if a truthful answer would tend to incriminate you. Do you understand that right? Mr. Trump? Yes. Okay. But we understand from your counsel that you do not intend to categorically invoke your Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination and will testify not any today. Is that correct? Mr. Trump? Yes. Okay, and are you taking any medication today that affects your cognitive ability or otherwise interferes with your ability to answer the question? Witness? No. Miss James. Okay, and with that, at this point, I'm going to turn it over for questioning over to Mr. Wallace, who is another attorney for the state. Again, the government is in pink, the defendant is in orange. I will just be pointing to who's talking rather than saying everyone's name each time. Hopefully that works okay. So, Kevin Wallace, Mr. Wallace. Good morning, Mr. Trump. Good morning. Ms. Haba is his attorney again. Excuse me, before we start, I believe Colleen and I agreed to put something on the record with the link. Mr. Wallace. Yes, I was just going to cover that. Great, thank you, Kevin. I'm going to make a note that we have a device on the table here that is providing a video link. That link is closed. It's within our office. It's in case the Attorney General has to leave during the testimony. She will still be able to observe the proceedings from her office. It's not open to the web. And so we had a discussion about this last night and understand this is acceptable to the defense side. Ms. Haba, right. Just for clarity's sake, it's a secured site that your IT team puts on that is not accessible to anybody but Ms. James for when she is removed. Correct. Thank you. And Mr. Kais, another attorney, and do you want us to note our appearances? Mr. Wallace, they've been noted for the record, so I won't there's a lot of lawyers' rooms in the room. That's true, there really are. I won't necessarily make every lawyer announce themselves. Examination by Mr. Wallace. So we're getting started. Those were the introductory pieces and the stipulations that were covered. I will be taking, myself, just so you know, I will be popping over to answer questions as we go along, just so everyone knows if we've got questions. But I do want to kind of get through the information, then I'll pause for a Q&A, if that's okay with everybody. So here we go. I'm finding it actually easier to just follow along this way, but would you prefer that I use my pen, or does it matter? I think it'll probably be back and forth. So, oh, sure, Grace, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yes, green now. Yes, you do you. Okay, thanks. Perfect. Oh, thanks. Yeah, sometimes I think when we're bouncing back and forth in between the different people, it's easier to just point it out. So excellent. All right, here we go. Question. So I'll say again, good morning, Mr. Trump. Good morning. I'd like to start with your role in the Trump Organization. So let me start ways in the past. Is it correct that you established the Trump Organization in 1980 as an umbrella organization for all of your real estate development and corporate affiliates? Objection to the form. So we have the very first question and we have objection. Set out. So this attorney is just saying he doesn't like the way that the question is being asked. We can ask leading questions in a deposition. That's okay. So objection to form. Answer, approximately, yes. Question, approximately 1989. Oh, that's cracking me up. This is just the beginning. The date, yes. And is that a fair description of what the Trump Organization is, an umbrella organization? I think so, yes. Mr. Trump, are you currently the person with ultimate decision-making authority for the Trump Organization? No. Who would that be? My son Eric is much more involved with it than I am. I've been doing other things, and I guess you could say on something major, financial decisions, whatever, but I've been much less involved in it than over the last 5 or 6 years than ever before. Okay, well, I think we're trying to go through your role over time. Okay. Because it has changed, is that correct? Yes, it has. Generally speaking, though, the Trump Organization consists of hundreds of different legal entities. Is that fair? A lot. And Trump's attorney here, objection to the form. I mean, so many objections that are coming in here. It's a lot. It could be hundreds. And the assets of the Trump Organization are currently held in a revocable trust. Is that correct? I believe so. Objection to the form. Okay. And that would be the DJT Revocable Trust? I believe so, yes. If we talk about the trust today, you'll understand that that's what I'm referring to? Yes. And you are the donor of all of the assets in trust, is that correct? I believe so, yes. And you are the sole beneficiary of the trust, is that correct? Yes. Why did you form the trust? When I was running for president, or shortly thereafter, after I had won, I thought it would be appropriate to put it in a trust. I didn't want there to be a conflict, although there could have been. I tell the story that George Washington, actually, when he was president, had 2 desks, one for his business. He was actually a very wealthy man. Side note, it was actually his wife. One of his businesses and one for running the country. I could have had that. If you look at Biden, he certainly does business and politics at the same time. But I felt I wanted to be a legitimate president. Didn't have to be from the standpoint of even using the word, quote, legitimate. I think it's important that you, if you're running the country, you're not doing business. but there was no legal reason that I understood that you had to. But I thought it would be a good thing to have a trust. We had a very highly respected man who was actually somewhat of an overseer of the trust, and I think we got some credit for having a trust. I don't think we got nearly as much as we should have gotten, but I think we got quite a bit of credit for having a trust. It's essentially meant that I was not involved, or at a very minimum, I can't even think of anything. I'm trying to distinguish the voices. Where I was involved. And again, I didn't have to do that, but I thought it would be appropriate. So that was a lengthy answer. Just to understand, it was in the connection, the fact that you're going to be running as president, that the assets were going to be put into trust. Primarily, yes. You mentioned that you had a highly respected man who was the overseer of the trust. Who was that? I don't know his name. I don't know his name. He was an attorney from Washington, D.C. I didn't know him. I believe I met him once, very quickly. And when you said overseer, do you have an understanding what his role was? Maybe a trustee. I didn't know exactly. I know that it was a limit placed on what even my children could do. And he was, respected. He was an attorney. He was highly respected, and he was involved in the trust. And your office would have records of who that attorney? Yes. They would have it all, that information. Yes. And at some point after the trust was formed, Alan Wasselberg and your son, Don Jr., became the trustees. Is that correct? I believe so, yes. Prior to that point, is it your understanding that you were the sole trustee? I think I was, yes. And Mr. Wasselberg and your son, Don, were appointed as trustees in 2017. Is that right? It sounds about right. And the change was made because you had been elected president of the United States. Is that correct? Yes. Why did you select Mr. Wasselberg to, one moment, serve as the trustee? He was with me for a long time. He was liked. He was respected. Now he's gone through hell and back. What's happened to him is very sad, but he was a very respected person. Been with me a long time. It seemed like the right choice. Okay, and your son, Don, why was he selected as a trustee? He's done a good job, well educated. Both of my sons have done actually a very good job. Since you mentioned it, could you go through for each of them, sir, what was their role in the Trump Organization? And I'm happy to break it up from before you became president and then after. So why don't we start with Don? Yeah. What was his role in the Trump Organization before you were elected president? Before? There was a change a little bit. Okay, page 25. Oh my goodness. All right, now we're getting into what's going on here. Don Jr. Okay. I would say Don was more involved in the sales, like he was in charge of the rental at 40 Wall Street. That is right outside of your window. Did a good job on it. Kept it pretty much rented. He would be involved with some of the buildings, a lot of the buildings, and the general management. I think that Eric was less involved with sales. He would be more involved with the management of the buildings and dealing with people having to do with management, but less involved with sales. And did that change after you became president? Yeah. And one thing they both involved with getting new deals. This is before the presidential, because we purposely didn't do very many deals after I became president, although I could have done more than ever. When I look at what's going on now, I can't believe that I did this, but I would do it again. We purposefully didn't do very many deals. Almost none, but unless it was an active deal that was ongoing prior to my winning. But we didn't do very many deals. We could have done a lot. We didn't do very many. That was at my instruction. I didn't want to have conflicts of interest if you were allowed to. but I didn't want to even have a perceived conflict of interest. So we is the Trump organization? Yeah. Okay. And who got those instructions from you to do not any other deals? I would say that Eric and Don and Ivanka. I was not interested in doing deals. I thought it was something that while I heard it was legal for them as a family to do, I thought it wouldn't look good. I wanted to do a great job as president, and I felt that would look like somewhat of a conflict of interest. I think you said that their roles changed somewhat after you became elected president? Yeah. How did those roles change then? Well, my role was gone. Now, actually, when I was running, which actually started in 2015, from that point on, I was much less involved with the real estate. So it wasn't just why I became president. It was somewhat before that, a year and a half maybe. But yeah, they became more intensely involved with the company. I was virtually not involved at all. I'd rarely have anything to do with anything having to do with the company. I really wasn't interested, believe it or not. I was interested in solving the problems with North Korea, which was ready to blow up, and solving the problems we had with China, who was just ripping us off left and right, and making sure that Russia never went into Ukraine, which they didn't, under our auspices, and, a lot of other things. There were a lot of things that were happening in the world, as you probably know, and I did a very good job. I got rid of those problems. Today, those problems are very prevalent. Excuse me. So, you were too busy for the company? In a way, yes. Trump's attorney. Object to the form. Answer. Yeah, I think you can say it. It's another way of saying it. I was very busy. I considered this the most important job in the world, saving millions of lives. I think you would have if I didn't deal with North Korea. Think you would have a if I weren't elected. And I think you might have a blank now if you want to know the truth. I'm not going to use my 7 hours on nuclear war, but can I? No, I know. Can I ask, though? It sounds like maybe a few things might bubble up. You said you were very rarely involved. Were there things that sort of came to your attention during your presidency that you can recall? I can, virtually. Trump's attorney. Object to the form. Not think of anything. I would say that the thing that I was most involved in is telling them, just don't do deals. We don't need deals. I have a lot of property. They're great properties. Run them. And we have great properties. We have the Mona Lisas of properties. We have properties that make money. But you can sell for many, many times because of the quality of the property, like a Turnberry in Scotland. I could sell that. That's like selling a painting on a wall that sells for $250 million and doesn't make income. It just sits on a wall, but it sells for numbers. I have some of the greatest pieces of property in the world, and they sell. As Mar-a-Lago, some of the things I own in Europe, some of the things I own in New York, even like Trump Towers, 57th and 5th. It's the best location. 40 Wall Street is the best location. Great building. I have great assets. I was never so interested in buying, as an example, a warehouse building in Brooklyn, which you would look at, X times the rent. I have assets which if I ever sold them, I don't want to sell any of them. But if I ever sold them, if I ever put some of these things up for sale, I would get numbers that were staggering. Mar-a-Lago would be a case. I think Turnberry would be a case in Scotland. We had its part of the Rota. The Rota is, I believe, the 7 courses that played the British Opening, which is called the Open Championship, which is the biggest of all tournaments. And that's one of the places, one of the 7, it's 7 that are approved for it. And they've been approved for 100 years. As they've been approved for a long time. I just don't get on the list. you just don't get on the list. And they had 4 British Opens there at Turnberry, and they had what is considered to this day the Duel in the Sun, the greatest tournament ever played. I don't know if you know golf, but Jack Nicklaus and Tom Watson, these are things that have tremendous value to rich people that, if it makes 2 million or 3 million and therefore would be worth 30 million or 40 million, I think, you could sell it for 4 or 5 or 600 million. Because it's a painting. The Mona Lisa is there. The Renoirs of property, many of my properties. Somehow I wasn't interested in properties. That didn't have that intrinsic value, or they couldn't have. If they were properly run, in many cases rebuilt. I rebuilt 40 Wall Street as an example and took it. It was an empty building and bought it for very little. And now it's, I think, pretty well full, even in this market. Does anyone remember the question? No, we don't remember the question. Oh my goodness. All right, let's go back. Let's look at the question. Here's the question. Can I ask, though? It sounds like maybe a few things might bubble up. You said you were very rarely involved. Were there things that sort of came to your attention during your presidency that you can recall? And then we're into the answer. All right. And now it's, I think, pretty well full, even in this market. But at some point, if the city ever comes back, I say that with a lot of things. You can say that with, if the city ever comes back, you can convert the entire tower of 40 Wall Street into condos and make an absolute fortune, far greater than the 500 or 600 million, probably, that the building is worth now. Probably more than that. But you'd make a fortune on the condos. I could see that with Seven Springs. When I bought Mar-a-Lago, I paid $8 million for it. And today, I think we're going to be bringing in people that will tell you it's worth $1 billion, 250 billion and a half, maybe more than that. But I bought it for $8 million in 1985 or so. And I believe that Seven Springs could be that. If New York would ever get its act together, which is a big if, because I just don't know that they will, they spend all their time investigating me instead of stopping violent crimes in the street. But if New York ever got their act together, if the city ever got back, Seven Springs is the Mar-a-Lago of New York. It's the most incredible place, and I think it has it has a great value. So, I think you described as the sort of Mona Lisa Renoir properties, Turnberry, Mar-a-Lago, Trump Tower, 40 Wall, and Seven Springs. Are there any other properties that you owe? Many. I mean, if you give me a list of my properties, I'll go down. I mean, many. Doral. I think Doral is. I guess it's close to 700 acres around there, right in the middle of Miami, right near the airport. I could get a zoning if I wanted it. I could get zoning for thousands of units. It's 4 golf courses and a very large, I think, approximately 800 rooms and magnificent clubhouse, all brand new. I built it, I ripped it down and rebuilt it and built it. Mostly brand new. New clubhouse, new buildings, blew up the golf course. Rebuilt the golf course, the Blue Monster, and the other ones. There's 4 courses, and I believe that Doral, not as golf, but as what you could build on it, because it's the best location. It's also zoned for gambling. Inside the perimeter, what they did is they created a perimeter for gambling. If that gets approved in Florida, and if gambling ever got approved in Florida, but we're one of the properties that is approved for gambling. Have you ever considered any other development on Doral apart from the golf course and resort that you have? Not really, because I don't, it's doing great. I don't need the money. You probably see the cash. We have a lot of cash. I believe we have substantially in excess of $400 million in cash, which is a lot for a developer. Developers usually don't have cash. They have assets, not cash. We have, I believe, 400 plus and going up very substantially every month. My biggest expense is probably legal fees, unfortunately. That's okay. But we have a lot of cash. We have great assets and we have a very valuable company. Forbes doesn't know about us. Forbes, I read Forbes. I read Forbes. You know, they're owned by China. They're owned by the Chinese and they have their own agenda. But I saw they said 2.5 million the other day. And I said, I have jobs. If you take Doral, I think Doral could be worth 2.5 billion by itself. And probably most valuable asset I didn't even include on your statement. And that's the brand. I didn't even include that, the brand. If I wanted to create a statement that was high, I would have put the brand on it. I had a value from the number one predictive, from the number one branding person at the time, 2.9 or $3 billion. And that was years ago. That was back in 2000 and something. And now the brand is worth much more. All right, I am going to pause for water. Thank you. One moment. Is this for real? Excuse me. All right, here we go. Here we go. If you look, I mean, I became president because of the brand, okay? I became president. I think it's the hottest brand in the world. I did an NFT deal the other day. Everyone is saying, a few months ago, everyone was saying that the NFTs were dead, and it was dead. People are saying, what are you doing in the NFTs? It's sold out in less than a day. It was supposed to take 6 months. It sold out in less than a day. You know what I'm talking about? You saw it probably, but it was roundly criticized for doing it because they said NFTs are dead. I said, well, a little bit late, and the thing sold out in less than a day. And by the way, people paid $99, sold 45,000 cards, you might call them. People paid $99. Some of those cards are selling for $22,000, $23,000, $24,000 now. And I think the average is about $1,300 a card. So people made a lot of money. I'm happy those are Trump people. Yeah, I'm sorry. What was your involvement in the NFTs? Let's pause here. Is everyone familiar with what an NFT is? Let's just take a moment. Does everyone remember the cards? I think I will get some popcorn. Yes, no, yes. So the NFT were these, let me see if I can give you the exact words for the NFT. Non-fungible tokens? Non-fungible tokens, yes. Non-fungible, yes. That's right. It's a non-fungible. Tissues. Well, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Oh. Yes, non-fungible tokens. Right. He doesn't know either. Well, it's, that's a pretty huge asset here. So I think, they're going to want to know what's going on in there. Best day ever. Thank you. You're welcome. All right, here we go. Back into it. Let's talk about those NFTs, Mr. Trump. Let's see what's going on here. Okay. Well, I did it with a person that does that stuff. I did it. And it sold out immediately. In fact, we're going to be doing another one very shortly. And it makes me happy that I think they're averaging $1,300 a card. And they bought it a few months ago for $99. But some of the cards are selling for $20,000. And a couple of them, I believe, I'll check this, I'll get you the exact number, are selling for $82,000, $82,100. I heard numbers like that. So somebody hit the jackpot. But the reason that took place is the brand. I did a book, Our Journey Together, and the book was a massive... Success. Recently, I'm doing another one now. The reason they're selling like that is because of the brand. I believe the brand is worth more than all of the properties put together. If you look at Coca-Cola, their brand, I believe it's 90% of their value or something. You know, their trucks and their factories and the rest of it. But if I wanted to show you a good statement, I would have added maybe $10 billion or something for the brand. I didn't put the brand in there, and I actually had an appraisal of $2.9 billion, and that was a long time ago. And we're going to go through each, so that's okay. I'm going to suggest, I know you feel the need to explain this, but no, I want to explain it to you because you don't have a case, and you should drop this case. And it's a shame that somebody that's done such a good job, the convention center in New York, so many things I did for the city, the job in West Side of Manhattan, thousands of people employed, and now I have to come and justify myself to you. I have to come after doing all of that and paid massive taxes, state tax and city taxes, and now I have to come in here, justify myself, and have crowds of people waiting in the street. It's a disgrace. It's a legal proceeding. You've been in legal proceedings before. You've brought legal proceedings against other people. So this day is going to go faster. I'm just telling you. We're not going to need to ask the judge for more time if we can just get through the issues that we need to cover. We have people who will testify at trial about the values of these properties. And even without the brand, and the brand is just as valuable as anything else. I mean, the brand has value. I didn't include it. If I was trying to make high statements, okay, my statement's way low. If I was trying to make high statements, I would have added the brand in there because I have had whatever number you're looking at, you could have added that at the time. And this is 14, 15 years ago. I could have added another $2.9 or $3 billion to it, but I didn't do it because I didn't need to do it. Well, and the banks wouldn't let you put your net worth. I don't know that the banks, why wouldn't they? Well, we can go through those. Well then, excuse me, if they wouldn't, that would be fine, but I can still have it on my statement, okay? They could discount it or something, but I didn't even put it on my statement. And the companies have brand values, big brand. Many companies have brand values, bigger brand values, bigger than the company, and that's true. I believe that's true with me. I think my brand value is probably my greatest asset, even though it gets tarnished. Like this suing me. Maybe it gets hotter. I don't feel like we need to spend a lot of time on your brand value because it is not part of the statement. The banks didn't want that. No, wait a minute. Wait. It is part of my statement. I just didn't include it. But if I wanted to include it, my statement would have been double. And when you say the banks don't, I believe the banks would have accepted. I mean, what bank are you talking about? The two banks that I never even had a default from? You're dealing with two banks. You're dealing with Douche Bank. You're dealing with Ladder. And I paid them. Miss James, who is a government attorney, Mr. Trump, and I don't know how you go back to 2011 because I always thought that there was a statute of limitations. I'm the one that doesn't get a statute of limitations. So you'll have to explain that at some point. The writer's strike right now is really difficult, isn't it? Yes. Deutsche. Yeah. Deutsche. Thank you. Deutsche. Appreciate that. Appreciate it. Deutsche. Yeah, I feel bad for the reporter. Absolutely, I do. Yes, I'm not good at the German. Took French. Sorry about that. Okay. I'm not going to explain to you today. I'm sure your lawyers have explained it to you. I think it's very unfair. They've raised objections of the statute of limitations. I think it's very unfair that you go back to 2011. I mean, everyone else tells me there's a 5-year or 3-year statute of limitations. I'm the only one that doesn't have that. Your attorneys are appealing that to the Court of Appeals. And let's not waste our time today on this stuff. The question that started all of this was, are you considering doing any of that development in Doral? We're pretty far away from that original question, aren't we? I believe the answer to that is no. On Doral? Yes. I might. I don't know. Okay. It changes from day to day. The market is very high now in Miami. It's, less hot in New York. But the market in Florida is very hot. Finally, the question, yes. Dora? My friend is huge. It is huge. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's a hot market. Doral. Doral. Sorry, everybody. I'm not going to get it right no matter what. No matter what, I'm not going to get it right. Okay. Phew. So, is anyone actively working on development deals for Doral within the Trump organization? We're going for zoning and things like that. I go for zoning, even if I don't want to build something, because when you decide to build, you can go right into it as opposed. I've been very good at getting zoning. I got great zoning. You know that from the west side of Manhattan. But we're not actively looking to build. Are you actively considering an easement donation on Doral? Yes, I am. And what would that easement donation entail, to your understanding? I don't know. Mr. Trump's attorney, objection to the form. It would be taking a piece of it, figuring out what the value of the piece is, and donating it as an easement where nothing is going to be built. Like I could take the Blue Monster, which is a legendary golf course, one of the greatest courses in the world, actually. One of the favorite courses of the PGA Tour players. And we have a big tournament there in October. We have the final, a very, very big tournament in October. It's very big course. It's a very powerful course. It's a very important course. And it's sort of a landmark course, actually. And so the easement donation would involve the courses potentially? It would. I would be taking the rights of that course, in other words. I'd be saying, I won't build on that course where I've done this elsewhere. I won't build on that course. I'll keep it the same and I'll take a deduction. I'll be entitled to a deduction. And who at the Trump organization is working on that for you right now? I would say more than anyone is Eric Trump. In this list of properties, you didn't mention OPO, which is a property you did decide to sell. Yeah. Were you involved in the decision to sell the property? Eric did that, but I was there for him. Yeah. And what was the reason for selling that property? Well, it opened very, very successfully. And then COVID came. And like every other place, it was, it went down and we were offered a great deal. We were offered by essentially Hilton Waldorf Astoria, and they wanted it. There wasn't much of a backup, meaning, those times. We started talking to them in good times. We talked to them for actually a long time, but they loved it. They said the head of Hilton said it's the best built property that they'd ever purchased. That's a big statement. I'm sorry, and who was the head of Hilton? I don't know his name. I can tell you it's the person at Hilton who runs Hilton. It's the person. Oh my goodness. Okay, where are we at here? Are we figuring out what his assets are? Are the assets becoming clear to us? Is it? It was Paris Hilton, Mr. Hilton himself. Yes. That's a good question. I'm not sure. That clears it up, doesn't it? I can't call Paris. And he was a businessman. He was. What was the question? Deep breaths. Yes. I'm trying. I don't know who the person is who's in charge of Hilton. I'm not sure who that person is. Oh, all right, here we go. So I think it's important as we continue to wade through this. Oh my gosh. I think the important thing here is we note who is doing what. That's really what they're trying to get into. Who was doing what and what role did Mr. Trump have in it? That was really what's key here. I'm gonna put my head in the oven. No, no, Sean. No, don't put your head in the oven. It's a lot. It's a lot. In this case, it's Eric. Right, right. Again, no one knows nothing. All Eric. Yeah. I mean, it seems like it's. You work for Hilton? Awesome. We love that. Which Hilton? I think is an excellent question. Oh my goodness. All right. Tim Apple. Is Tim Apple the one who's in charge? I can't. Okay, best comment ever. It was Tim Apple. All right. Hold on. I'm gonna get a drink and then we'll keep going. Because we have to. We have to keep going. Oh my gosh. All right. Let's find out if it was Tim Apple. Here we go. All right, let's see. All right. They were so impressed with the property. I did a great job. Here we go. And so did my family. We did a great job. We took the old post office, which was a derelict building for 35 years, was going to be ripped down for literally 35 years. They saved it. Landmarkers came along and they saved it. They did a good job. It's a great building, but it was a mess. It was for, I believe, 35 years, essentially empty. They had an adjoining building that was used to be a shopping center. They turned it in and it failed. I made that into a ballroom. It's the best. I think it's the best ballroom in Washington, D.C., maybe beyond that. And we did a fantastic job of redevelopment. It opened with a bang. I'm sure you were all there, and it was beautiful. And then COVID came along. Our gift. I'm not going to repeat that because that's just rude. And when COVID came along, obviously, things were different. And then the mayor closed down the city, and she said, no, you can't have business. You can't have this. And I could have sued them, but I decided in the spirit of the country not to do that. Ooh, the spirit of the country. I'm loving that. In the spirit of the country, in the spirit of the country. And my kids decided to do that. One thing they did say, what do you think we should do? Because they literally closed down the building and we were paying real estate taxes. We were paying all those costs. We were literally, the city was closed down. Some cities weren't closed down. So some cities were closed, some cities weren't. All right. And probably a little before that, we started talking to Hilton when it was doing really well. And those talks meandered and meandered and meandered. And then they made a deal. They wanted it. And they made a deal and COVID seemed to start going away and whatever. And they fell in love with the property and they paid us, a good price, actually higher, probably higher than I thought I'd get. And Mr. Trump's attorney, can we just take a quick break, please? Yes, Mr. Kais, that's the best question I've heard from you. Sure. There's no question pending. We can go off the record for 5 minutes. Videographer, please stand by. The time is 10:42 a.m. We are off the record. Recess taken, 42 to 49. All right, so we're off the record for a minute. Let's talk about this. Again, what's the whole point? Yes, the Post-it note. Sure, you got it. The whole point of this is the AG's office out of New York is saying that information was falsely given. So all of this information about the business and what he was doing, what he wasn't doing, what other people were doing, that information was incorrect. And so that's what she is trying to get during this deposition. Who did what? Oh, we're not doing all of the pages. No. No, can't read the Post-it note. All right, let me put the front top page back on here again. There we go. Here we are. This is the lawsuit out of New York, the people of the state of New York against Trump and these people here. And this has to do with with his business dealings in New York and what he declared and what he wrote down. And she's claiming that the numbers were wrong, that the information was bad, and is suing for that. So she is suing for $250 million as well as an injunction to make it so that he can no longer do any business dealings in New York. Yep. Oh, sure. Absolutely. You bet. You bet. I think the AG has a very strong case. I'm not an expert in this area, but yeah, I kind of do. Actually, I have a person that I follow here on TikTok who is an attorney who she does real estate. Would you be interested in her TikTok page? I can share that if that's something you're interested in. She does a really good job. She explains things really well. So I follow her here on TikTok, but when it comes to real estate and business law, that's not my area. So she does a really good job. This is her TikTok name. This is her account here. Hopefully you can see that. It's ABB or ABII Legal. She does a pretty good job. The way she explains things, I think, is very clear and easy to understand. But she does real estate business law. That's really her area. Yeah, she does a great job. I usually don't recommend attorneys on TikTok just because, you never know what people are looking for. But she does really an amazing job. So I don't think it's 2 Bs. I think it's just 1 B. I double checked. This is her full name here. So she is an Esquire and she's got an MBA. She does a really great job. Oh, yeah, sure. So if you're interested in business law or 2 I's, yep, business law, real estate law, she just has a really great, easy ways to understand how things work. I think she just does a nice job. Cohen told them to look at the golf course. Any mention of that yet? Not yet. Not those specific ones yet. Can she help with employee contract? Oh, I don't know if she does that. I'm not sure she really does employee stuff. She's very specific about, business law and real estate. So, I mean, she just does an amazing job though. But yeah, you can always check out her site. Check out her 2 I's. Yep, 2 I's. ABIILEGAL. And I've been following her for a while. She just does a really good job. So I am not into business law that heavily. So if you're looking for further information, yep, you got it. You got it, Jessica. That's right. She just does great work. I've just been very impressed with it. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, we've got a little color changing going on. Someone you're calling your account live today is the best thing. Thank you. Oh, thanks, Jay. Oh, thanks. Yeah, we had some special requests to go through this deposition, and that's fine. Oh, good. Yeah, she's great. I think she's really great. And again, we don't know everything about everything. We kind of, each of us have our own specialty areas. So she's just she's a great creator. I think a great person and does fantastic work. So highly recommend. Okay, so before we get back in, loving the moon ring. Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's kind of changing as we go through. Now, really, I'm not planning to go through the entire deposition. I think the very first piece of this is really where he's setting out who is doing what. So he's going to be talking about Don Jr. He's going to be talking about Eric. Once we kind of get past these initial moments, in order to do it, take Advil. Yes, I've pre-hydrated in preparation. So I'm doing pretty good. My nails. Oh, thanks. Oh, Brandy. Yeah, no, I don't know anything about any lying. I don't think we're having any lying. I don't think that's really the issue here. We're just kind of going through what he's saying. Around 260. Oh my gosh. I don't know. I don't know. Yes, Ivanka was kind of pulled to the side in this particular case. So, all right, everybody, are we ready? Let's dive back in. Here we go. Oh, rambling. Yes, it's a lot of rambling. All right, back into it. In general, yeah, I mean, in this particular situation, I don't know about any of that. I'm just trying to figure out what he's saying and look at it from a legal perspective, as well as assessing the different objections that are going on. Ready as I will ever be. Oh, all right. This time, the time is 10:49 a.m. We're back on the record. Mr. Trump, when we went off, we were talking about the sale of OPO, and I have a question about that. By the way, let me just interject. One of the most annoying things, but valid things that we do in depositions is we go off the record, which is fine. But when we go back on the record, we can talk about whatever we spoke about off the record. That's one of the things in depositions. It drives people bonkers. But before we got onto OPO, we had been talking about the roles of your children played at the Trump Organization, and we got through Don and Eric. We haven't talked about Ivanka. So before you left to become president, what was Ivanka's role within the Trump Organization? She was very much involved in helping us. There was a bidding process by GSA. There were a lot of people that were bidding, and pardon to interrupt, but when you say she helped us getting it, you mean getting the OPO deal? I was talking about OPO. Okay. And they went up to, I think they call it a charrette, and we made a presentation along with other companies made presentation, and GAS made the decision to. They liked our presentation. They liked that we were going to do what we were going to do primarily. They liked what we were going to do with the hotel. And that was quite a long time ago. I went with Ivanka, and they had like a committee board or something, and other people bid also. And it went through the charrette. Some people were going to convert it into an office building. Some people were going to convert it into residential. Some, we had the concept of a hotel. They liked our concept, and we ultimately got it. That was a long time ago. But that was a long before. I would think before I even thought about running for office. Any other projects Ivanka was involved in at the Trump Organization? Yeah, on the West Coast in Canada. She was involved in a couple of projects, but she was starting around the time maybe even prior to she was starting an Ivanka line of clothing and accessories, and she did a great job with that. That was here. That was hers. And she did a great job. And that was separate from the Trump Organization? That was separate, yeah. Was she also involved in the D transaction? Mr. Kais, object to the form. Early on she was with purchase. Okay, going back to the OPO sale, did you remember how much profit you personally earned from the transaction? Object to form. No, it was substantial. And by the way, substantially more than we have listed in the financial statement, as you know. So before I move on here to Mr. Wallace, who's the government attorney, going back into this, let's just note, has anyone noticed he's continuing to say that on the information that he filled out, he didn't add all of the amount in? What does objective form? The form of the question, you can have lots of different kinds. Like you can have open-ended, you can have leading questions, but sometimes if your question is tangled up, they'll just say it wasn't a clean question. So when you're objecting to form, you're just stating the question can be misconstrued. There's lots of different ways you can look at it. So if it's not a clean one, it can be misinterpreted, and the answer given then is not the answer that you're really asking about. And many times in cases like this, they've got outlines of what can be asked and what is going to be objected to. And so in this situation, they're basically saying the way you're asking this question is asking for an answer that, is going to be wrong. He made more than he reported. Yeah, that seems to be the theme over and over and over again here. And so you have to ask, why is that the theme? Why is that so important? Why is he not answering the questions anyway? Yeah, that's a great question too. And you'll see this struggle with with counsel, because they're saying, look, we're trying to get to the answers here and we're not getting them. Yes, repeatedly. All right. So back to Mr. Wallace, again, government attorney here. We're going to mark as Exhibit 1 a document bearing the production number. It was May 12th of 2022. Email from Jeff McConney to someone named Elizabeth Pettijohn and Whitley Penn. Deposition exhibit here. Mr. Trump, this is an email chain from Jeff McConney and Elizabeth Pettijohn, and it forwarded an earlier chain from Patrick Burney to Donna and these people. First, can I ask you, who is Patrick Burney? A gentleman who works for the Trump Organization, I believe. Do you know him personally? Not very well. Donna Kidler? Likewise, I don't know her. Do you know her personally? I know who they are, but I don't really. You don't work with her closely? No. Okay, same question for Mark Hawthorne. Do you know who he is? I think the same answer, you know. And I'll ask one more. Mike Levchuk? Similar answer, yeah. Okay, if you see below the email states, see the attached updated spreadsheet. We don't have a spreadsheet attached to this email. Assuming we get the $139,404,324 in the title company and combine it with the $383,823 of the interest on the deposits that's already in the bank, the amount of distribution should be the amounts listed below. And that says DJT $126,828,600. And then it lists your 3 children, each getting $4,013,024. Can I ask, do you know if the $126 million amount for you represents your full profit of that transaction? I don't know. And then his attorney here, object to the form. Are you asking him, is this what it says here? I'm asking if this number is representative of the full profit he obtained on the transaction. Same objection. I don't know. You don't know? Do you think you may have made even more on the deal? I don't know. Object to form? I don't know. I never seen that before. Okay, we can put that one aside. Witness complies. Why don't we talk next about those statements of financial condition? There's a discussion off the record. Mr. Wallace, again, government attorney here. Exhibit 2 and Exhibit 3 was marked for identification. And let's bump down here. Mr. Kais, which is his attorney. I don't know why I don't have my other highlighter. Sorry about that. All right, here we go. Mr. Kais, do you have extras for me? There's a discussion off the record. What's the judge's ruling on the objections? At this point, I don't have a copy of how the judge ultimately ruled because none of them were really raised beyond this deposition. So any of these questions, they're just kind of putting it into the record. But as of right now, I don't have information on how the judge ruled on any of them. Who would not know if you made $29 million on a transaction? That's really a great question. All right, Mr. Trump, we've marked 2 exhibits. Exhibit 2 is a statement from the office dated February 15th. Statement by President Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. Exhibit 3 is a document entitled Donald J. Trump, Statement of Financial Condition, June 30th of 2014. It bears production number, blah, blah, blah. And I'd like to start by focusing your attention on the statement. Did you draft this statement? Which one? The statement from the President of the United States? No. No, you did not? I don't believe so. Who drafted it? I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at it. I don't know. Did you authorize the issuance of this statement? Object to form. I might have. Oops, I might have. I just don't remember this particular statement. You don't remember this particular statement? Okay. I don't see anything necessarily wrong with it, but I don't remember this statement. What is your process in general in your office issued statements by you? Object to form. People issue statements all the time. I mean, it's especially with the fundraising where I've never seen it. They do fundraising and they do a lot of things. And especially as president, I had very little to do with statements of anything, with statements being released about me on the business. Okay, I'm just asking this statement from February 15th of 2022, which was after you left the White House. Yeah. And you're now post-presidency. What is the process for someone issuing a statement in your name? Object to form. What was the process with respect to the statement, or what is the process in general? He said he does not remember this statement. I'm asking for his process in general. I would say generally, I would look at it, see it. I may have looked at this, but I see so many things. I may have looked at this. I haven't read this now. I may have looked at this. But we have a lot of questions, I have a lot of questions of press, a lot of everything, and a lot of people will give statements without contacting me. And so do you know one way or the other whether you reviewed this statement before it was issued? I don't remember, but I might have. If you look at the first paragraph, okay, take a moment to read it, and then I'll direct your attention to a couple of points. Yeah. Let me ask, does this refresh your recollection about the issuance of this statement and whether you approved it? Not much, but it's something. I don't, it's something I would have approved. I think it's probably something I saw along the way. I would say it's more likely than not something I saw. It's a long time ago, but you mean last year was a long time ago? I don't seem to have any problem with it. Why don't you mark this as Exhibit 4? And then it was marked, Mr. Trump, I've marked as Exhibit 4 in an email bearing the production number. And this is an email message dated February 15th from Molly Michael to Eric Trump and Alina Haba, copying Kimberly Benza. Miss Michelle Michael writes, speak now. He's given it his final statement. Margot will be working on putting it out very soon. Does this indicate to you that you would have likely approved this statement? Yeah, I think probably. Somebody wrote it. Somebody put it up. And I think I probably would have seen something like this. And who is Molly Michael? Michelle. It was an executive assistant for me. Did she work on an entity called 45 Office? Is that? I don't know. Okay. I don't know what the entity would be. All right. Going back to the statement itself. Yeah. So you can put that email aside. You write that at the bottom of that first paragraph. The Mazars June 30th statement of financial condition reported before I ran for president in 2015. It contains, subject to review of the entire statement, the following, and it lists a number of amounts. Do you know why you are quoting from the June 30th, 2014 statement of financial condition? Object to form. Other than why it says right there, now this is right here, this statement is something an attorney would say to be very frustrated. Other than why it says right there, I don't know exactly. I think it was because that was the statement that was before I started running for president. I started running in 2015. And so I think that would have been a date I could see used because of the fact that it was the previous year to running. Do you remember why you wanted to issue a statement about the statement of financial condition? I don't know. I could have been because I was being sued by you people. Does that make sense? It's like a Mad Lib. It really is. I'm just trying to get what our money is. It could have been, I was being challenged and I said, we have a great company. And what I did is I believe that if they did, let me just see. AG and the DA. Yeah, the AG and the DA. That's probably why this went out. But you don't have a specific recollection of asking anyone to prepare the statement? I don't remember it, but it's very possible that I did. If we turn to the second page, actually, let me turn you back to the front page. Yeah. Let's start there. The first sentence reads, we have a great company with fantastic assets that are unique, extremely valuable, and in many cases far more valuable than what are listed in our financial statements. Right. Is this what you're talking about before, how the properties are Mona Lisa properties? Yeah, absolutely. The next sentence read, I could sell them for a lot of money to some people. There would be people that would do anything to own Doral. There are many people that would do anything to own Turnberry or Mar-a-Lago or 57 and 5th Trump Tower or 40 Wall Street, But some of these things are in particular when you look at, I could sell Turnberry, which is one of the most iconic places in the world. One of the most beautiful I've ever seen, rated among the best golf courses in the world, as others are too that I have. But I believe I could sell that Live Golf for a fortune, Saudi Arabia. I believe I could sell that to a lot of people for numbers that would be astronomical because it is very much like owning a great painting. Why does somebody pay $250 million for a painting that sits on a wall? These are iconic, very iconic properties, and I have numerous of them. Can I just clarify, have you actually gotten offers for these properties from the people you're talking about, or just your expectations? I never asked for an offer, but people have said to me, if you ever want to sell Turnberry, let us know. I would be able to sell Turnberry quickly for a tremendous amount of money, far beyond what you would say it's worth, by the money it makes, far beyond. Do you recall the name of the people that told you if you would be interested if you were going to sell Turnberry, object to the form. Just people have told me. Yeah, people would tell me, do I recall names? I think I can do better. I think I can get you appraisals or statements from people as to what they paid for different properties. We're probably in the process of doing that right now. When you say appraisals or statements, are you talking about materials that are being prepared for this litigation or as part of your ongoing businesses? Well, we're talking to people about values now for the upcoming court case. And we're going to, I don't want to sell them, but we're getting people very interested in buying them just by talking about as witnesses, etc. We have developers that are going to come in and say what they would pay for. His attorney, let's not go too far. Certain assets. These are also his attorneys. I'm going to instruct, witness, I'm just telling, I don't care. They're going to see it soon enough. His attorney, I know he's not asking you to reveal anything that's attorney-client. Correct. I'm just asking as part of your business, though. Generally, have you received offers from individuals to purchase any of those assets that you talked about? Well, I never. Object to form. How is he objecting to form when there's not even okay. Sorry. Sorry about that. I've had people say, if you ever sell Mar-a-Lago, please call me. That's not for sale. Who, for example, who told you that? Well, I'd rather not say because I don't want to embarrass them, and I may be putting some of these people on the stand. And his attorney repeats, right. So, I don't know if you're going to object, but I'd rather not say because you're going to be seeing those people. Yeah, I'd rather not, says his attorney. I think the line is pretty gray as to what is he'll be on the stand, what is privileged and what is not. So the only names that you have of someone who said, if you ever sell Mar-a-Lago, I'd like to buy it. It is someone who you have retained for litigation purposes in this case. Am I understanding that correctly? Objection. A person that will be using object to form. I don't think that's what he's saying. I think there are people that we have consulted with. And so to the extent that we consulted with them, that's protected. Okay, anyone outside of the people you consulted with in the conduct of litigation who have told you, if you ever sell Mar-a-Lago, I would like to buy it over the years. Over the last 30, 40 years, that he's owned it. Counselor, I would like him to testify. Wow, here we go. Here's the smackdown coming down. Counselor, I'd like him to testify. His attorney replies back, I'm just trying to be over the years, yes, but I can't remember who at this point. So you don't remember names? People have come up to me. Wealthy people have come. Say, if you ever want to sell Turnberry, if you ever want to sell Mar-a-Lago, if you ever want to sell others of my clubs, which are amazing, if you ever want to sell, let us know. Okay. But as you sit here now, you don't have the names of the specific people that have offered this to you? I don't. I don't even know who the people are. I know they're very rich people. Okay. Why don't we take a look at Exhibit 3, which is the 2014 Statement of Financial Condition. This is the report you cite in the statement. And I'm sorry, strike that question. I just want to point out one other statement on one of the sentences on the statement. Sure, you write. Back to 2. We're back to 2. Let me start the question again. You write in Exhibit 2, anyone with even a minor degree in financial acumen would recognize that these statements of financial condition prepared for the Trump Organization are not audited, which is also prominently highlighted in the disclaimer declaration on page 1 and 2 of the documents themselves. I guess, what do you understand the disclaimer declaration to say? Well, they call it a disclaimer. They call it a worthless clause too, because it makes the statement worthless. Who is the they? That's everybody, people. I've heard the expression for years. Accounting firms call it a worthless clause. Some people call it a disclaimer. Some people call it a worthless clause. So it's your position. Many lawyers have come to me and said, you have the greatest worthless clause I've ever seen. How can they be using this statement against you? I say, because of politics, that's why. I have a clause in there that says, don't believe the statement. Go out and do your own work. This statement is worthless. It means nothing. Now, so it's your position that this statement is worthless? That no, that's what the clause is. It's a worthless clause. It's, if you look at the statement, that statement was put in by the accounting firm without negotiation. They wanted a very powerful statement in there. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness gracious. From the day that the statement was put in, which was from the first statement, actually just about, it stayed pretty much the same. You know, I never felt that these statements would be taken very seriously, because you open it up and right at the beginning of the statement, you read a page and a half of stuff saying, go get your own accounting, go get your own this, go get your own that. So why did you get these statements prepared? I would say more for maybe myself, just to see the list of properties. I think more for myself than anything else. Sometimes an institution would like to see. I don't think they were given credence because of the worthless clause. I don't think they were. Or the disclaimer, whichever you want to use. I don't think they were given much credence of statements. But it's a compilation. It's a fairly good compilation of properties. But when you open it up, the first thing you see, the first thing you read is this clause that goes on to tell you that you shouldn't rely on the statement. I mean, look, you read it. It's a page and a half. We'll get to that. But I'm just trying to understand, though. If the statement was more for yourself than anything else, why are the values then still below what you think they're really worth? Because you write in, because I didn't. Objection to form. It's 2 objections on that one. You write in Exhibit 2 that in many cases, they're far more valuable than what is listed in our financial statements. I think that's true. I think they're actually more valuable in many cases. I think they're more valuable, quite a bit more valuable. If you look at the values today of this property that you have down, obviously the numbers are low. In 2014, the numbers are low because the properties are worth much more today, most of them, much more today than they were in 2014. But I read your statement to read that in 2014, yeah, it is your view that these properties are worth more, even more than they're listed for in this document. That's correct. Object to form, objection. Well, if you read it that way, it's interesting because obviously, it turned out to be right because the properties are worth more today, generally speaking, than they were in the statement substantially. I'm just trying to understand your statement, though. Objection. Is it the case that your view is that of 2014, these properties were worth more than they are listed for in the statement? Object to form. I'm also going to object. You keep mischaracterizing his testimony. So let's just ask the question directly. He didn't say he remembered writing the statement. Regardless, it turned out to be true because the properties are worth more. So if you look at these statements and you look at the value of the numbers that they have down and the values of what it was, let's say, I guess you have to go back a year and a half ago when your lawsuit was filed. The properties, many of these properties, many of them were worth very substantially more. Very substantially more? What is that? Sorry, take a moment. Okay, pausing. Is he going on the stand or is this a depo? This is a deposition. Yeah, this is a deposition. All right, so they're worth very substantially more. And again, we continue to go on and on here about how the value is more. And why are we doing that? Why is he doing that? He does sound confused. Underlining admissions to crimes. Right. Okay. But I mean, why would this be a big deal for him to continue to say over and over and over again, that the amount is very substantially more than what he was considering? Considering the brand. It's crazy. Taxes. How does he not understand that they want to know if they were worth more in 2014 than reported? That's a really great question. Loans? Yep. He's looking for another bank loan. It kind of sounds like it. He owed loans because he knows he messed up. An attorney who can't read. Well, he overvalued his property to get loans. I think that's what it's coming down to. He had declared the value of his company as a certain amount. Now, as the attorneys come in and start asking him specific line-by-line questions regarding the amount he put down, he's continuing to say it's actually more than I wrote down. So the attorney is going back and saying, well, what about in 2014 when you wrote down that amount? Well, and he's saying again, that amount was not enough. Repeatedly, over and over and over again. It's being right. And every year before he ran, when he was in the presidency, and then afterwards. These are the issues that are going on in this case, is that there is no, the attorneys are trying to pin down the amount and where he got this number from, that they're worth more than he actually had put down. He's falsely reporting. That's one of the questions, isn't it? That he's inflating the amount that was down, but he's saying he even put the amount down less than what it actually was. So it's almost like he's like, I was doing a favor here by putting lower numbers. If you actually look at it, it's way higher based off of what other people he can't name, numbers that he has been given. That's how I'm seeing it. What's a worthless clause? Yeah, that's a great question. I really don't know. I mean, it sounds like he's using a worthless clause to describe what a disclaimer is. Okay, Carney, he's determining his property values based off of their future potential. Okay. Is a worthless clause an actual thing? I've never heard of it, but, I'm also not a business attorney. Most disclaimers won't hold in court. Could be. He's correct if you talk about real estate and time frames. Okay. Financial statement is worthless. Right. So the statement itself isn't helpful, but yet the attorney is saying, but it's still here. It's still in there. There's still information included in that clause. Whether or not it's helpful or not, we don't know, but it's still being included in it. I should have lied even more. Is it me? I'm kind of getting that feeling. And, we've heard this before. We've heard this before in a phone call. Now, again, that's a criminal case. This is a civil case. But this idea, this kind of theme that he's using of, I only need 11,780 votes. I won by a whole bunch more, but I only needed this amount. So here he's saying, I only put in this amount. It was worth way more, but I only put in this small amount. It seems to kind of be a theme that he's using a lot. Determining his property values based on who he wants to impress. That's a good point. That's a thought-provoking point. Yeah. The clause means the owner made the number up and no audit was done to check his figures. Okay, interesting. Also selling because he needs money for attorney's fees. Yeah, there's a lot. Tax fraud. Rabbi, I think you nailed it. He wants his cake. Yeah. Guesstimating. Right. And I think, guesstimating's fine, but not necessarily when it comes to financial disclosures for different banks and for taxes as well. I mean, you have to be kind of, specific about that stuff. Getting an answer from him is like nailing down Jello. Right. Undervaluing for taxes, overvaluing for banks. Right. Yes. And I think that's what the issue is. I mean, that's why we're here today. That's why we're, she's asking for $250 million and to not be doing business here because this information is incorrect repeatedly. Since he's determined to brag even here, it makes sense. Is to get what he can of buyer worth. Absolutely. Good point. Yep. Loans overvalued, multiple accurate appraisals. Right. Where's the clause though? I want to read it. Yeah, I don't have any of his contracts. I don't have that information. He sounds like a used car salesman. Yeah, it's hard to track what he's saying here. I mean, just like this sentence, even right here, many of them are worth very substantially more. Like, what does that mean? Showing his cards with all of his, there's a lot. I mean, a lot of this information that's coming out here is not helping him. The attorney looks like he's trying to kind of corral it. His attorneys are listing a lot of objections to try to keep things within certain parameters. But even as his attorneys are objecting, like we've got all of these objection to forms, which are really, I mean, that's like one of the easiest objections to say during a deposition. Because when you're sitting as an attorney in a deposition and you're listening to your client answer questions, if you need to interrupt your client to get him to stop talking or her, the easiest thing to do is to set out an objection because that stops the stream of the language. So objective form is the simplest one, I think, and the one that's kind of at the tip of his attorney's tongue here. Financial statements are worthless. Right. He's going to lose his case. Well, we really have, I'm certainly not an expert in this area, but we have a lot of situations where the attorney is asking a simple question, who gave this to you? And rather than just saying, I don't know, he's kind of expanding on all of these people say it's all of this and all of that. Objective form just means you've got a messy question, so you need to clean up your question. We have to be careful with how we phrase our questions, and if we ask a question that is, out of line, opposing counsel can object to it. This is just an easy way of saying you've got a bad question. You need to rephrase. So if you're objecting to form in trial, you would say objection, objecting, it was a leading question. And so the answer to that, a judge would say, counsel, please rephrase your question. That's the answer to an objective form. Or the judge could sustain it and toss out the question. And so you would just have to retweak your question, make it more specific and a better way of having the answer put into the record. Now, leading questions and depositions are allowable. That's fine. You cannot lead on a direct examination in court, but our deposition questions are different, specifically in civil court as well. No, there's no judge here. With a deposition, we've only got the videographer, the stenographers in here, and then all of the attorneys. So objections are literally just put into the record, into the deposition like this. And then if there is an issue with this particular answer, then they would review the objection and a court could make that decision, but only if it's brought up in trial. Right. Yeah, we don't have a judge here at a depo. There are some jurisdictions that have a judge on call when they're doing a deposition. And so that, especially in criminal cases, so they've got a judge close at hand to actually rule on objections at the time. But those are really very high profile, difficult cases. This was filmed. Yes, this was being filmed. There was a videographer. Who is people? That's a really good question. Who is the people? I don't know who the peoples are. Can use it as a way of letting his client know to be careful when he answers. Exactly, Victory. Exactly. It's a perfect way of breaking up an answer that a client is giving and getting the client to stop for a moment. Usually we prep our clients and say, if I'm objecting, wait until we have a decision based off of that objection before you go forward. And sometimes that decision can be the attorney saying, I'll rephrase the question. But in this case, he's not even waiting. He's just continuing to answer. So rather than forcing the government attorney to rephrase the question, he's just going forward and answering it. Yeah, I don't think the video is available to any of us. That's one of the reasons why we've got this printed transcript out. But, I bet that it would be a bit painful to watch. He doesn't have to answer. Yeah, he doesn't. In depositions, you're still told to go forward and answer the question, but sometimes the other attorney that's being objected to would clean their question up and re-get it and re-ask it in a form that's cleaner. But you don't have to. And here, they're like, it's 7 hours, and he's going on and not answering the questions, which, the government attorney is already saying. Rachel Maddow has the video. Okay. I've seen clips. I've just not seen the full video. He pleads the fifth in the civil trial, the presumption of guilt. Yes, and that's a huge difference in civil court. In criminal court, that presumption can't be used against you. But in civil court, it can. Oh, well, I'm glad you told me, Frank. I'm glad you told me about that. I'll have to look that up and take a look at it. I've not seen it at this point. Yeah, Jean, Miss Carroll's deposition. Yeah, I think we've all seen quite a bit of that. Yeah, you understand why he goes through attorneys so fast. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, his attorneys are like, kind of all over the place here. Yes, we're still gonna go. I'm still gonna keep going through this for tonight. I've still got some more pieces here to kind of go through and explain as we go along. Request for boop boop in his voice. Oh, I don't know about that. Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, yes, I am an attorney. Yep, and I've done many depositions. Many, many, many. Oh, yes. Yeah, I think it's helpful to kind of look to this language for sure. Although I would definitely be interested in pulling this up as a video if it's possible. Boop boop. It helps point out the insanity. I think so. I think it helps point out the situation, Oh, you're at an Arby's. Would I represent him? Absolutely not. No, 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 I did my time. I did my time with clients that, we had to, I had to take care of, but, oh, yeah, that's not normal. You're right, Suze. Sometimes I gotta just pause and be like, what is happening here? Yeah, that's a hard no. Oh, oh my gosh. I know. I was thinking I was going to ask Hawk to come in. He's been doing some great impressions lately, but I mean, yeah, it would be a lot. And this also just isn't my field. And even though I could do criminal defense work, this is not the kind of client I would take on at this point in my life. Maybe in the early years, but not now. Oh, that's so funny. All right, here we go. Rehydrating, Hawk. I know. Objection to form boop. Yes, I think we're gonna see a lot more of those objections, and we're gonna see the attorney here kind of fighting it a little bit more. Wasn't one of those guys he claimed not to know an officer in his organization? I think several of them were actually. Most of his lawyers look slimy too. Well, I mean, yeah, I think we get. Oh, for tonight, I'm not really sure exactly how far we'll get in the pages for tonight. We're just kind of using this as a learning tool. So, as long as we can keep learning. Oh, yes, we love Hawk. He's hilarious. Right. I do all kinds of different law. I'm very client oriented these days as opposed to particular content. I do have a pretty big background: criminal law, employment law, family law, labor law, torts and litigation, insurance. So just kind of a lot of different areas. How many papers is this depo? Well, the full depo is about 500 pages. I certainly am not going to do that. I just printed out a little bit to kind of go through for tonight. The boop shroom for a second. Yeah, let me get the boop shroom out. Where'd he go? Let me find him. Oh. Okay, here he is. got the boop shroom. Oh, yeah, he's my... Yes. Yeah, he comes and hangs out. Keep an eye on the trolls. Yeah, he's so chill. He's pretty chill. Oh, a lot of people probably have no idea what we're talking about with the boobs, but oh yeah, he's hanging out. We'll move him. Okay, bye. We'll move him to the side. Oh, y'all crack me up every time. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh, hello, Tara. Hello. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. We went through a speech on January 6th from Mr. Trump, and he said boop boop during his speech. So I don't think we've ever recovered from that. Ever. Yes. Raffensbomber. Oh, no, it's okay. Yeah, I think because, yeah, the Miss Carroll testimony was available. I haven't seen this particular one, but I'll take a look. If it's available, definitely worth a look. Yes, yeah, that was pretty funny. Never will. Oh, the boop boop forever. Oh, goodness. Right, prevent perjury. Sure. We can do that. All right, let's go back in. Let's go back in. We've still got some more interesting bits here to go on. All the booping. Oh my gosh. How is it that lawyers don't get drug tested? I think that's an interesting question. I need merch. Yes, I'm working on that. I've got a partner in crime helping me out with that, so we are working on that. Will there be another deposition? I don't think so. I'm not sure that they necessarily need that. Right. All right, well, let's dive back in here. So we've got very substantially more. So we'll go through a little bit more here. Again, we've got some good bits that are included here. All right, question. So if I'm understanding your statement correctly, you're saying that these properties are worth more today, not that this statement is inaccurate as of 2014. No, I think objective form. I think we have now the benefit of knowing that the statement when I did it was probably low because of the fact that a number of years later, not that long later, the properties are worth substantially more. In other words, if I have down a property for $1 million and today it's worth $3 million, that meant that this statement was low, not high. All right, so let's pause for a moment. Let's just look at that statement he just made here because I think we're starting to see what's happening as time goes on. If I've got down a property for $1 million and today it's worth $3 million, that means the statement was low, not high. I think that's a moment to pause for as well. You're saying it was high. It was low because it turned out to be that the property's worth much, much more than the statement. So if I'm understanding, in some cases, much more. So, and again, the biggest thing to me is that if I wanted to produce a great financial statement for banks, I would have added maybe $10 billion. But I would have added, because we were already at $2.9 billion, but I would have added maybe $10 billion you take a look for brand value. I didn't put anything for brand value. Now we've got the moment here, everybody. Here's the moment. Here's the moment in time. I would probably maybe put down $10 billion more than this 2.9. That's an admission, Leo. Yeah, that's an admission. This is a big piece. I would have added maybe $10 billion for brand value, which is this huge nebulous concept he'd been going through before. So we've got a moment here where he's stating he would have increased it by 10 billion. That's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot. 10 billion's a lot to just add for brand value, don't you think? Yeah, his lawyers probably were in a bit of a discomfortable state. It seems like it. If you just give him a mic, doesn't it have to represent the value at the time of the sale, not the current value? Yeah, it does. Or the future value. Right. Yeah. So that was the perfect guess. Maybe $10 billion. Right. That's a lot, isn't it? The bank can't use his brand. Excellent. That's exactly right. They can't use his brand, or exposure. Like, hey, I'll give you free exposure. Like, that's not helping. Yeah, exactly. All right. Here we go. Why don't we turn quickly to page 4 of the 2014 statement? And if you look at the top of the page, are you on page 4? And then there's some back and forth here. Okay. And there it says, It says basis of presentation. Exactly. Point 1, basis of presentation. The top sentence reads, the accompanying statement of financial condition consists of the assets and liabilities of Donald J. Trump. Assets are stated at their estimated current value and liabilities at their estimated current amounts. Okay. Using various valuation methods. So I'm trying to understand if your point is that the current value of those properties as of June 30th of 2014 was actually higher than it is listed here, or if your point is that the properties have gone up in value, meaning that they're worth more all along. It turns out, object to form, it turns out that they were higher than we have listed. Time has proven that that is the case because some of these properties have gone way up in value. So it turns out that if we had something down for, 10 million and it's now worth 20 or 30 million, or in a couple of cases, there's a vast difference. And so it turns out that the value that we have now turns out to be low because not that many years later, it's worth double or triple. Sure. But if someone has a home in the suburbs and everyone wants to move out of the city during COVID, homes go up in value. That doesn't mean it's worth more earlier. No, it goes up, it goes down. Yeah, it goes up, it goes down. Object to form. But your lawsuit started at a certain point, and if you take a look and the values are still good, Florida is probably higher today than it was 2 years ago, as an example. Let me ask this another way. In other words, I put a number down. It's a current number, right? Current. Well, if a number of years later, not that long, it's not 200 years ago, it's worth much more than that, which we'll show you at trial, that it's worth much more, okay? Much more than the numbers of, let's say you take the 2014 statement. I don't know how you go back with statutes of limitations all the way back to 2014, but if you do, you do. But you take the 2014 statement, if something is much more valuable now, or I guess we'll have to pick a date, which was a little short of now, but if something is much more valuable now, then the number that I have down here is a low number. That's much more accurate than an appraisal done in 2014, or even a guesstimate done in 2014. Oh, Leo, I think you're right. And he's saying that the numbers that they're talking about, he'll bring up in trial, which again, during the discovery period of a civil case, like that information needs to be given to the other side. This isn't a criminal case. So if he has information and he has numbers, regarding the civil petition, he needs to give that information to the other side. He's not answering the question, won't testify at trial. That's a lot of it. But he's also now just stating we've got more information we could give you, but we're not going to give it to you right now. So now the government's like, hey, what about this information you have here? Because we have a right to take a look at this evidence. People paid him just to be quiet. He's opening discovery holes. Yes, I agree. I wonder if the IRS has audited his business return on these properties. That's a good question. That's a great question. Look at Atlantic City and the casino. Yeah, I feel totally gaslit by him, listening to him. Yeah, Shirley, I'm with you on that. There's some questions here. He's raising questions we didn't even have before. This attorney is like, wait, what do you mean you've got this evidence with these numbers? We're going through the evidence. I'm walking you through the evidence. I'm asking questions about the evidence. And now you're saying you have more evidence. Like, okay, well, why don't you give us that more evidence then? Yeah, keep talking. All of this can be used at the other trials too. Yeah, especially any kind of question of dishonesty. That's one of the pieces that can always be used in a criminal trial. Seems like he's confusing property valuations of the future with current valuations. Sean, I agree. It seems like he's not quite understanding. Like he's stating, well, at the time it was this much, but it's actually worth more than that, because if you look at it right now, it's worth more than that, which is like a basic fundamental problem with his understanding of how they work. Can they subpoena the missing info? and hold a default judgment if they don't provide. Casey, it's possible. Absolutely. At this point, now that they know that there's more information with what he just said here, they can go for it. They can go after it in discovery. Absolutely can. He's fast and loose with the values. Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing too, is with these kinds of values, like you can be off by a little bit, but you can't be off by $10 billion. Like $10 billion is not like, oh, well, you know, an estimate, ballpark numbers, not ballpark $10 billion. It's not really how that works. When was this testimony? April of this year. April of this year, and it was just made public a couple of days ago. An attorney, it must be difficult to take on a client like this. Matthew, I don't think difficult's the right word. I think this is like career ending, like I'm ready to go pick corn in the fields now kind of situation. Like that's going to be my new job from now on. I'm going to go pick vegetables. All that wealth and he still has 750. I know. Yeah, I mean, this is it. This is a moment where, oh yeah, I would be happy to go out in the fields, forget about it. If I had a client like this, oh, the corn. Oh yeah, no, I mean, this is it. Or go watch the rocks grow. Oh my goodness. Yeah, let's paint the grass. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm just trying to think of what a different course would be other than being an attorney. That would be it. Will the lawyer get paid? It's anyone's guess at this point. If any of his attorneys are going to get paid, is anyone's guess. Oh, the corn is coming out. Thanks. Oh, yeah, it's a lot. All right, let's dive back in and see what other little gems we have. Oh, more corn. Thanks. Yeah. It would be tough on the corn. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm off to do vegetables. If I was sitting in on this deposition, that would be it for me. I think I would be like, I'm done. I'm out. I don't care. I'm just going to go pick corn so I can pay my student loans back and be happy again. If you're not working on retainer for him at this point, it's your own fault. Excellent point, Leo. Excellent point. The worthless clause of the corn. Yes. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Sometimes you just gotta say, "This is it. I've had it. This is the end. This is the end." Okay, let's hop back in. Oh my goodness gracious! All right. Are you saying that these numbers are guesstimates? Well, objective form. I don't think that's what he said at all. It is the word guesstimate is a compilation of knowledge and all sorts of things put together, because ultimately I can't tell you what the property is going to be worth. And nobody can. Appraisers are right and wrong. Everybody knows that. But in this case, we know that the numbers are low because we have the benefit of looking years later and seeing that these properties are much higher in value. And I'll have people testifying to that fact, that these properties, many of them, but the big ones, because you don't need too many to get way above this number, way above the number, that the properties are worth much more today, or whatever the date you people pick. Whoa, harsh. But they're worth much more money than they were in 2014. Therefore, 2014 number turns out to be low. So we have the benefit of hindsight. So let me ask, just going back to the statement, is this the process that you're talking about when you say that the statements are far more, that the properties are far more valuable than what was listed in our financial statements? This is what you're talking about? Well, this is not object to the form for attorney. Oh, yeah, this was done in 2022. So now I know that they were far more because in 2022 they were far more. I'm asking what your basis was for saying that they were far more valuable when this was written in February of 22. Because I look at the value today, in other words, I'm looking at the value today. I'm asking though, someone's sitting down writing in this February of 2022, and you're saying they were far more valuable than what was listed in our financial statements. What is your reason for saying they're far more valuable? Well, if I listed in 2014, objection, object to the form. If it's listed in 2014, whoever, Alan or one of the people, they put a number down in 2014. And again, remember, you have a disclaimer clause that everything we're saying is supposed to go out and get your own appraisal. You're supposed to do it. You're supposed to pay no credence to what we say whatsoever. I'm sorry, moments. Let's take a moment. You're supposed to pay no credence to what we say whatsoever. Let's take a moment and try to figure out in common vernacular what that means. We're writing out numbers in a financial disclaimer, and he's saying, but you're not supposed to put any credence in those numbers. I mean, what? I mean, am I reading that correctly? All the best words. Smart people don't understand. I think you're right. We don't understand. We don't understand. How, what? Yeah. What? The worth of, oh, thank you so much, everyone, for the gifts. I do appreciate it. Thank you kindly for that. Yeah, that's a gotcha moment. You're supposed to pay no credence to what we say whatsoever. But that's not how that works. That's not, oh, thank you. Yeah, that's not how that works at all. All right, he means that the lenders to make their own determination of value and not rely solely on his. Okay, well, that just doesn't seem clear to me. I don't know. I think whenever we're looking at phrases like, you're not supposed to give credence to what we say in a document is, kind of a red flag moment. I think that's, so he's creating these documents or having these documents created, and his intent, his mindset is that whatever is put down, you're not supposed to pay any credence to. That seems like a moment, it seems like a moment here. All right, let's keep going because there's just so many gems in here. So we need a wine break. Okay, I'm gonna just take a water break here. I'll tell you right now, there's not enough LaCroix in the world for this situation. I'm just going to put that there. All right, here we go, back into it. So why it's unfair. The banks are shocked by this. That's my opinion, because they've never had anything like this. Do you know the banks were fully paid? Do you know the banks made a lot of money? Do you know, I don't believe I ever got even a default notice. And even during COVID, the banks were all paid. And yet you're suing on behalf of banks, I guess. It's crazy. The whole case is crazy. The banks made a lot of money on this. I think they said I paid $280 million worth of interest. $280 million. I was never in default. I don't believe. I paid the money early. If it came on a holiday, I paid the interest before the holiday. In other words, if the payment was due on a holiday, a lot of people they pay it after the holiday. I paid it before the holiday. Okay. All right. Are these instructions you gave to someone in your office? I always tell that to my people. Object to form. Yeah, I always said that. I said if there's a holiday, pay the banks, because I had a good relationship with banks. Do you know who the person is? The fact is, I didn't need the banks for the most part. Like, you'll look at, I'm sure you'll get to see this, but if you look at my cash now with all of the money I waste on legal fees and all of this stuff that we're all going through, I thank you very much with all of that. I have over 400, fairly substantial, over $400 million in cash. That's just cash. I also have very sellable assets because of the glamour of the assets. The glamour? I'm not familiar with that. They're glamour assets because I never liked the non-glamour assets. Does anyone know what glamour assets are? I'm just as a quick pause here. Glamour assets, glamour shots, glamour shots. I don't think it's glamour shots. Shiny Mona Lisa, gold toilet, Miss Universe. Oh my gosh, you are all hilarious. Oh, the gold furnishings. His wife. Oh, that is not very nice. The country secrets. Oh my goodness. Oh, being on the Forbes list, right? I thought he said he didn't know about the Forbes list. All right. It was my question. My silly question. Okay. I just wasn't sure if it was a legal term I was missing. Tanning booth. Okay. I got it. Thanks. That's a special privilege to the island. Oh my goodness, you all are hilarious. Oh my goodness gracious. No, I was just asking if it was some kind of a business term I wasn't familiar with. I guess I was wrong. Okay, one moment. I can get myself pulled together here. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness, you are all hilarious. All right, here we go. Back into it. Here we go. Glamour shots, the glitter conspiracy. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right, back into it. So we're not officially sure on what this means, the glamour assets. All right. Whew. All right. They're glamour assets because I never liked the non-glamour assets. Okay, that would be different. A non-glamour asset is you. Oh, he explains it. Okay, I was too soon. A non-glamour asset is you multiply times cash flow. Or you might figure out that the area is getting better and you're going to get more money for your warehouse rent. But these are glamour. These are assets that sell for. They don't even look at the bottom line. I say that they're the Mona Lisas. Okay. All right, so the glamour is a word he's made up then for his Mona Lisas. All right, I got it. I'm there. I say they're paintings. You put a painting on the wall. It doesn't throw off your cash flow, but you can sell certain paintings for tremendous amounts of money. That's what I have. But you aren't getting cash from these properties. Turnberry, go back. Turnberry is one of the greatest golf courses anywhere in the world. It's a top 10. It's a top 1. It's the one of the best. And golf happens to be very hot right now, the hottest. Everybody likes golf now. For some reason, golf was made hotter by COVID. Okay, we can go into that. But clubs filled up because of COVID, because people couldn't travel, etc., and they all joined. It's hard to get into a golf club. And that's increased the amount of your golf clubs? COVID? They say that. I mean, I don't know. It's never been explained why, but we've had some very good years with these things. But again, when I say a certain number in 20,000 in 2014, and now you look now, it's way above that number. That means that my number in 2014 was a low number, not a high number. You're saying that the numbers were high. But the biggest thing, and I tell my lawyers all the time because they don't bring it up, I tell them all the time, the most valuable asset I have is my brand. And if I wanted to build a big statement just for the sake of a statement, I would go out and I would value the brand, and which is much more than $3 billion. And as I said once before today, I became president of the United States because of my brand. I just want to go back to a couple of things you said. The first is you said, I didn't need banks for the most part. I didn't need what? I didn't need banks for the most part? Yeah. So why did you use banks? Because you do it. It's better tax-wise. You do it. I didn't use a bank when I bought Turnberry. I bought it. I don't need banks. I mean, paid off all the stuff that you need to talk about. I paid it off. I'm trying to, wait a minute, but when I get sued by you, but the Donald Trump prior to politics and prior to getting sued by the Attorney General of the state of New York, banks wanted to do business with me so badly. And I'd like to focus on that time. So before you were president, go ahead, sure. Before the case comes and you said you don't always need banks. That's right. What would your considerations be when you're deciding whether or not I'm going to use a bank or I'm going to borrow money for this project? Objection to the form. Now we're back in 2011, 2012. I'm 100% before you were president. Stenographer, can you just wait until he finishes? I'm sorry. The poor stenographer. Oh, let's highlight the stenographer. Let's take a moment. Can you just wait until he finishes? I'm sorry. Witness, you've got it. It's not an easy job. Before he was president, covers from 1950s all the way to 2017. So what? Let's not go back before. Okay. Do you want to go back before? Let's go back a little bit further. They've already violated the statute of limitations. Let's now go back to the 1920s. Why are we in the 1920s? Oh my gosh. Chris, I believe the question was clear until you decided to mess it up. No, it wasn't. These are the attorneys. He understood it and was able to answer it. So if you want to object, say object. Don't sit. Don't try to make the question more complicated. I'm not trying to make the question more complicated. Don't read into it. Don't read into the record, all right? I'm not reading anything into the record. You said before he was president. Are you talking about 2011, 2012? There's all sorts of transactions. That's not speaking objection, Chris, and I would ask you to stop. Ooh, the lawyer's hot. Well, you can ask me, but your questions are, so you're not going to obey the CPLR, that's the civil rules, and I'm going to obey the CPLR, but we're going to be here until midnight if you keep asking questions that are all over the map. Chris, we're going to be here until midnight if your client answers every question with an 8-minute speech. So let's get down to business. Question, Mr. Trump. No, we're not. We're not. We are limited to 7 hours. He's answering your questions, but your questions are so imprecise, it's difficult to answer them precisely. When you said midnight, if you want me to say it that way, then I'll say it that way. Chris, the questions aren't imprecise. They're very imprecise. They're extraordinarily imprecise. Before you were president, we're talking about a very long span here. Even just in this case, if we're talking about 2011 to 2016, that's a long time. There's a lot of transactions in there. If we stick with specific transactions, perhaps that will help. I'm sorry, but that's my observation. You're not sorry. These are the lawyers. Again, just a key here. These are the lawyers. You're not sorry. Yes, I am. And this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Do you want me to give a date, maybe? I'm going to tell you. Why don't we talk about the period between 2011 and 2016 before you became president? What were some of the considerations you would look at when deciding whether or not to I'm going to borrow money on a particular transaction? Interest rate, maybe a little bit, but the interest rate was pretty much the same. You'd look at the developers that would get pretty much a good interest rate. I was very sought after by banks to do business. This is we're going to build the wall. This is pre-politics, okay? I was very sought after by banks. Now, sometimes you would borrow money and make a deal because the money was cheap and you'd borrow money. Sometimes you wouldn't make the deal because you didn't want to borrow money, in other words. But you didn't need a bank if you didn't make the deal. I've done deals only because I had such a good deal from a bank, you know? But in the case of Doral, which I think is a very good deal to look at, in the case of Doral, it's gone up massively in value. Massively you'll see that in court if we ever go to court. Doral it's a big deal. It's gone up massively in value. One of the things they like is that they were putting up a relatively small amount of money. Remember, Doral right now looks like 4 golf courses, 800 rooms of hotels, beautiful clubhouse, all that stuff, right? But Doral is zoned for thousands and thousands of units. In other words, we would be able to build all those condos you see coming up right now to the edge of Doral. That would be extended onto if I wanted to do that. I just don't want to do that now. At some point, I may want to do that. Can I ask a question? Proof you said that. One of the things they like is that they were putting up a relatively small amount of money. Who was they? The banks. The banks? Yeah. One of the things they like is the banks. So they felt it was a steal. It was a steal. I mean, I brought it from a debt guy. He just wanted to get debt. He was a very smart guy, very brilliant guy, actually well-known person, but he wanted to get debt because he would buy debt and then he'd crush people. That's what he did for a living, you know? Some people would say that's nice and some people would say that's not. But that's all so he bought actually a $4 billion mortgage having Doral and various other places in it. And he just wanted to get his money back and make a return. So he was not a real estate guy per se. That's why one of the reasons I was able to make a good deal. So the bank already knew I had a good deal. But then the bank said, "What are you going to do with this property?" I said, "I'm going to fix it and make it gorgeous," because it wasn't gorgeous. It was old and tired and exhausted. I'm going to rebuild the golf courses. I'm going to rebuild the units. If you go into those units, I'm sure you haven't. But if you did, I'd love to take the jury for a little trip. They're the most beautiful rooms you've ever seen. Everything's brand new other than the structure. I left the structure in many cases. In the cases of the clubhouse, I took most of the structure down. It was practically a brand new. I used some of the steel, but basically it was ripped down and rebuilt. It was brand new. In the case of the villas, 800 rooms, they were gutted out down to the steel and rebuilt, and they're incredible. Now, so the bank knew I was going to do that. I didn't have to do that. I could have done what I called a paint and wallpaper job. A paint and wallpaper job? Learning all new terms tonight. Just to paint and wallpaper it. But it was time. It was tired. And I had a choice. I could have done the A+ job, which is what I did. The B job, the C job, the D job. Or I could have done even less than that. I could have just left it the way it was and ran it. People still want to play golf. I also rebuilt the golf courses. I rebuilt the Blue Monster in its Blue Monster form. Because if you know anything about, it's such a famous course. You're not going to like the 18th hole is just the one of the famous holes in golf. So you don't want to reinvent the wheel. But I rebuilt the Blue Monster. I rebuilt the gold. I rebuilt the red. The bank knew I was going to do all this work, and they made me, as I remember, guarantee that I was going to do it. As I started doing it, and this was true in a lot of jobs I do, I fall in love with a job, and I start doing a better job. I start using marble instead of carpet. Excuse me, one moment, please. I start using marble instead of tile. I start using granite exteriors instead of wood exterior, which is much more expensive. And because I saw what I had, this thing was the best location, and it's one of the best locations in Florida. That's why it was always successful. It was always successful. In fact, when I brought the debt from Doral, they had a hard time selling the debt to anything else. They had other hotels. The built more and other hotels. And the mistake that was made is that everybody wanted Doral. It would have been better off if we sold everything, leaving Doral. So the banks knew they had something that was good as an asset. And the banks also knew that I was going to spend, and I believe, didn't I spend $130 million of my own money, cash. I spent like 130, 140. Wait a minute. We started at 125. Now we're at 140. And that's like 10 words. I'm just noting this for a moment. In 10 words, we went from 125 million to 140 million. I'm just saying, I'm just noting that for anyone else. Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot of millions. What was the question? I don't know what the question was. We are 3 pages into an answer. Let me show you the question again. So we're on page 92. Let me just note where we're at because we would not want to lose our place. We're on page 92. The question is in page 88, and the question was the banks? That was the question. The question was the banks, the question mark. And he even started with, can I ask a question? And then he asked the banks. And now, after page 88, we are on page 92. Okay. Oh, all right, here we go. I think it might have been before that. Eric would know, but I spent a lot of money and it's been successful. It's been very successful. But when a bank loans me that money, they see what I'm spending over and above it. Now, as successful as it's been, I can leave everything I've done, take the vacant land, close up the gold course or the red course, and I could build. Not even the blue course. I could build a lot of units on there, but I just haven't chosen to do it. I don't need the money, so I haven't chosen to do it. And but if I sold Dorel as a group, so you're going to let me go on hoping that I make a mistake. And that's okay. That's the way it is, Perry Mason. Perry Mason. Oh, no, Perry Mason's getting brought into this. Perry Mason. Oh, wow, that's harsh. That's just mean. It's a glamour answer. Oh, my goodness. I can't see through the tears streaming down my face. One moment, please. Oh, my goodness. Not the Perry Mason insult. Anything but that. Oh, good Lord. All right, here we go. Oh, I gotta pull myself together here. I'm pulling myself together. Oh, my goodness gracious. Goodness. Perry Mason. All right. Whew. Let's see how Perry Mason has entered the chat. Keep Perry Mason out of your mouth. I'm sorry, just one moment, please. That's just mean. That's just mean. He didn't do civil work, okay? He was a criminal attorney. Oh my goodness. Never have I ever in my life ever read anything like this before. Oh. Okay, water break. One moment, please. Okay, back to Perry Mason. Oh, poor Perry Mason. Who's Perry Mason? Oh my gosh. All right, here we go. Back into it. How does the attorney respond? Let's see. The rule is I'm supposed to let you talk. Hey, I caught Biden making a mistake. Oh my God. Hey, I caught Biden making a mistake when he said he's going to close up gas at the end of the debate. I said, that was Perry Mason. Unfortunately, the election was rigged. So here's the story. Are you ready? When the banks saw this and when they saw all the money that they wanted to put it up, but I could have gotten other banks to put it up too. But from your perspective, it's worth getting the loan if the interest rate is low enough. Is that the idea? No, it's not. Objection! If you need the money. For instance, I could have got 10 really low interest rates for Turnberry. I paid all cash. I paid, I think, $68 million. Something like that. All cash. And then I put another 60 million. So I was in for the 120 million. It was no mortgage. As an example, I could put a mortgage on Mar-a-Lago right now. You know, Mar-a-Lago, despite its tremendous value or worth, has no mortgage on it. Many of my properties have no mortgage. That's why when I read the stories, it's like I'm heavily levered. I had very little debt, relatively speaking. I guess my question is trying to understand then, what are the factors that you consider when deciding I'm going to just invest my own cash versus I'm going to borrow so money from the bank? How do you decide between those two? A lot of it is just my instinct. I mean, sometimes they throw money at you, sometimes they don't. Like right now, banks are tighter, very tight as you read, I know. It's tighter. Interest rates are higher. Right now, if you want to borrow money, it's a little bit tough for people, frankly. But thank goodness I don't have to borrow money. I'm the opposite. So, looking back then at the Doral example, why did you choose? Why did your instinct suggest that you should borrow on that? Yes, tell us about the instinct. Because the bank wanted to do the deal. I had a relationship with the, how do we say it again? Duce, help me out, everyone. I'm sorry. I apologize. I can't remember how to say the name. Deutsch. Thank you. My French gets in the way. Deutsch. Thank you. My relationship with Deutsche Bank, they wanted to do the deal very much, but they wanted me to put money into it over and above their loan. And I did. I actually put more money into it than I thought because I decided to do a better job. I wanted to do a B job. But I said, let's go A+. And if you walk into those rooms, they're all marble bathrooms. I mean, they're beautiful. I'm sorry, everyone. I just need a moment. I can't. This was not something I was trained for in law school. This is outside of my training. Oh, just a moment, please. Sorry. I can't. Oh, all right. Okay. One moment, please. Here we go. Wow. Okay. All right. Oh. All right. We've got beautiful marble bathrooms. Right. You said that you had a relationship with Deutsche Bank. Yeah. I believe they'd financed the construction of your tower in Chicago. Is that right? Yes, they did. Do you recall the Doral deal, however, was with a different part of the bank? Yes. That was with the Personal Wealth Management Group? Different part, but it's still the bank. Yeah. Okay. Were you dealing with different people on the private wealth side versus the commercial real estate side? I don't know. It could have been, but it's still the bank. Who was the primary point of contact with the bank on the Doral deal? I believe on that one, a very fine wood woman, Rosemary. Rosemary Vrablick I believe that's the way you pronounce it, fine person. And she was and she was private wealth, considered private wealth. I was actually asking, though, from the Trump Organization side, who was taking the lead from your side on the relationship with the Deutsche Bank? That was before I was running. That was before I was running for politics. So I would have been doing the lead. Okay, I think we can get back to the loans in a little bit, more detail in a bit. I would like to go back. I'm just saying, all I'm doing is talking about values. I understand, so let's go back to values. The value of that asset is, I believe, numerous billions of dollars now. It's in the heart of Miami. And again, it's very valuable for what I have. Like that massive number of units, depending on what deal you make for zoning. And you can make a deal because they want to tax revenue. And Florida is, very, to use a different word, progressive. But they're very progressive in a different sense than the way we think of progressive. But they want to see things built. But I could get thousands of units built on that, condo units built on that job, or rental units on that job, if I want. But I just haven't chosen to do so at this moment. But if we can go back to the statement for just a minute, let's stick with this one. This page? Yeah, let's stick with the page we're on. I've introduced this section by reading the statement that assets are stated at their estimated current values and liabilities at their estimated current amounts using various valuation methods. Next paragraph begins, such valuation methods included, but are not limited to the use of appraisals, capitalization of anticipated earnings, recent sales and offers and estimates of current values as determined by Mr. Trump in conjugation with his associates and in some instances outside professionals. So I'm just trying to understand what that process looked like from your view. How would you go about determining the values of the assets that are listed in this statement? For the most part, my people did this. They would give me a statement. I would certainly look at it, but I had not a lot to do with it. I just didn't consider it important because of the worthless clause. I just didn't consider it an important statement. And it would be very hard to do a statement where every time you did a statement, you'd go out and hire appraisals and this and that. It would take forever to do a statement. So you use common sense. You use some other things. People come up with numbers. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. In this case, they were low because, certainly in a lot of them, they were low. Because time has told you that if you held onto these properties, they were worth much more than the numbers that they put down. I was never very much into this because I didn't think it meant anything. And from the standpoint of a bank, when a bank read the worthless clause, that this statement is worthless, which is what I view it as. It's what I view the clause as saying, and it says it as strongly as you can have it. When this clause was first put in, which it was from early on in the statement, I said, who's going to read a statement like this? That doesn't mean anything. And the accounting firm, which was a different version of, they kept merging because of me. Everybody said, oh, we have Trump as a client. So they ended up merging. This accounting firm was a different name, different everything. And a lot of it was because they had Trump as a client. And then because of your lawsuit, they dropped me, okay? I want to ask, my, I have come a long way. To go back, when you started this, you said my people would prepare the numbers. Who in the Trump Organization do you remember? I would have to say primarily Mr. Weisenberg. Anyone else you remember working it? Maybe a little bit. Jeff McConney, two good people. And at the time of this report in 2014, Mr. Weisselberg was the chief financial officer. Oh my goodness gracious. Was what? In 2014, Missel Westerberg was the chief financial officer of the Trump Organization? I believe so. Object to the form. And what was Mr. McConney's title? Under Allen? Was he the controller? Objection. I don't know. I can get you a title, but he would be under Allen. Anyone else you remember working on your statements besides them? No. They might have their own people in the office. But no one that came to you? No. Object to the form. So, what was your involvement in the preparation of the statements? I think you said someone might bring you a draft, but generally speaking, what was your involvement? Not much. They had the numbers. I'd see it mostly after it was completed that, he gave me a rundown or give me, in some cases, like the statement, maybe an outline in some cases. Don't forget, you're talking about a lot of different statements over a lot of different years. I would say from 2015 on, because I was starting campaigning in 2015, as you know, I would say I had very little, if any, involvement. I just didn't have very much involvement. And again, we had a lot of cash. Banks were interesting. You don't have to do deals. If you don't do a deal, that's okay. You don't need banks. For instance, right now. So if I was going to do a deal now, generally you'd self-finance to deal. Most deals you can self-finance if you have this kind of cash. And what are the situations in which you would use a bank loan instead of your own cash? The deal depends. Object to form. Oh my goodness. Sometimes the banks will call you and we just want to do a deal because, they're in business to do deals too. Now times change and all. But I mean, there were times when banks are begging you to do deals, begging. They want to do deals. I mean, I've got 2 closings where a bank would say, I had one deal. I believe it was Trump Palace on 3rd Avenue. A good deal. We went to the closing and the bank said, I'm not going. We're not going to close. We want you to take an extra $100 million. I said, I'll take it. Excuse me. When was the Trump Palace deal? A long time ago. Whatever. It was 3rd Avenue and 64th Street, but nice job. But the bank said, no, we want you. We feel you need more of this. We feel you could easily handle it. We're not going to close unless you take more money. During the period of 2011 to 2016, do you remember any banks begging you to do deals? No, but people, specifically, yeah, I think they wanted to do Doral. Doral was one that they wanted to do. I'm just going to mark an exhibit as 5. Just go for it. All these lawyers. And they would have been right because the value is now so high. The value is, you're going to see what the value is, but I would say perhaps over $2 billion, perhaps substantially more than that. I don't know what I have it listed here for in the statement. Doral, what it's listed for, but Doral is, if I were to be going to sell it, which I'm not, but if I were going to sell Doral, I think I could get $2 billion, $2.5 billion. You'd get a massive number. Can I inquire, is the $2 billion or this work product we're talking about here? I don't think, no. I'm just saying that's my opinion. Yeah, I think he's just giving his opinion. That's my opinion. Which is exactly what's in the Statement of Financial Condition, Deposition Exhibit DJT5. Bumping down, discussion off record. I've marked as Exhibit 5 a document bearing the production number, whatever. It's upside down, but it is a draft of the Statement of Financial Conditions of 2014. Is this the draft for this? Yes. This is the pre-draft for this? Yeah, it's a draft from the files of Mazars. I'm curious. Do you recognize the handwriting on the first page? The first page? The first page? Yeah. And I'll just direct you to the handwriting in the top that says DJT to get final review. Mr. Kais is indicating, yeah. Do you recognize the handwriting? No. I'm curious. Does this refresh your recollection of the process whereby you would get final review of the Statement of Financial Condition? Yeah, I think generally it's interesting. I would say as years went by, I got less and less. And then once I became president, I would, if I saw it at all, I'd see it, after it was already done. So in the period, again, I hate to be boring and tell you this. When you have the worthless clauses on the piece of paper and the first page you're reading about how this is a worthless statement from the standpoint of you're using it as a bank or whatever, whoever may be using it, you tend not to get overly excited about it. I think it had very little impact, if any impact, on the banks. They look at the asset, Doral, they looked at the land. They looked at my cash. Do I have the cash to put hundreds of millions of dollars or 200 million over and above? And I did. So I'm understanding that you didn't particularly care about what was in the statement of financial condition. Object to the form. I didn't get involved in it very much. I felt it was a meaningless document, other than it was almost a list of all my properties with good faith effort of people trying to put some value down. It was a good faith effort, but nobody's going to go out there and hire 37 different appraisal companies and spend hundreds of thousands each getting some appraiser to give you an estimate every year. But if you had an appraisal, you would include it in here. Object to the form. Yeah, if there had been an appraisal, that would be part of it. All right, let's take a moment here. Let's take a moment. So let me ask the chat this. If you had all of these assets, would you get an appraisal done? It seems like you would. I mean, I don't know. I'm not dealing with millions of dollars in assets, but it seems like you would do that. Yes. It seems like it, right? The angry orange. Oh, that's so funny. So he's saying here he didn't want to spend the money on getting an appraisal. Is that what you're also getting out of this? And then the attorney is asking if you did get one, you would have included it then. So if there's any evidence of an appraisal that wasn't included, he could have some trouble with that. Is that what we're getting here? Doral. Yes, Jeff, I'm going to mess it up. Every time I say it, I'm going to mess it up. To accounting, it's normal. Yeah, it seems like normal accounting to me. It does. It does. I mean, again, I'm not dealing with the level. Why didn't the banks require it? That's a great question. That's a really good question. He literally lost me at question 1. I think a lot of us got lost. Not necessarily a requirement. Okay, that's good to know. He just drank himself to death. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. All right. Okay, so our recap here is he is being asked to name names. He's not naming names. If he got an appraisal, he couldn't lie. Ooh, that's a good point. That's an excellent point. Right. Perry Mason, yeah. Go get them. They don't do an appraisal every year. It's every 5 to 10 years. Okay, that's good to know. Object to the form. Yeah, the objection to the form is just what this particular attorney seems to like to use as his kind of knee-jerk objection when he's feeling like things are going off the tracks a little bit. So he will put that objection in. Depending on the property, it could be 2 years. Okay, good to know. All contracts come with... Right. Well, Liz, it seems like there should be... It seems like there's this worthless clause in here that he's really struggling with. I'm wondering if somebody maybe explained the worthless clause to him in a way that was maybe not as accurate as it could have been. 5 to 10 for tax purposes, not financial. Okay, excellent. Would show a lower value. Yeah, I think the appraisal, that's what it's sounding like. If you can't blind them with brilliance, baffle them with BS. Oh, that's genius. Please, not the clause again. Sorry, Sequin. Sorry. He thinks that protects him. Yeah, I'm wondering. He just thinks that about the documents. Yes. Yes, I do need to hydrate. So hold on. I've actually gone through my hydration. Just one moment. I need to go grab another drink. I'll be right back. A drink of water. So just give me 1 minute, please. Pause. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you. All right, we had a poll going. Appraisal 96%. Okay, excellent. Excellent work. Yeah, I think I would have done an appraisal, but I'm not dealing with the same kind of numbers. So, maybe that's maybe that's just me. All right, am I back in frame okay, everyone? And then I will dive back in. I don't have the entire deposition here. So, I've just got a bit more here to go, but even dealing with those numbers, appraisals would be better. Okay, yeah, good. Okay, good. I'm glad. Thank you. Thank you. I guess billionaires don't need appraisals. Well, I'm wondering. I'm like, it just seems kind of like one of those things you just do, but I think that these are weird, unique properties. The banks didn't know how to value them. Ooh, Eve, excellent point. That's a really good point. Like that. They're a little different, aren't they? Right. Yeah. You'd have to list everything actual in zoning and everything. Okay, good to know. I'm learning so much. All right, so this is the deposition in the New York case. This is where we've got the New York DA who has come in and filed a lawsuit against Mr. Trump and his organization regarding the finances that have been done. So this is the case itself. This is the people of the state of New York versus Trump. This is the case file. So if you want to look this up yourself, it is online. It is available, publicly accessible for everyone who is interested. We've got a trial. This trial is set for the first week in October, so it's coming up just a few weeks. This deposition was taken in April of this year, but has been made public just within the last few days. Yep. All right. Oh, you're welcome, Tara. You're welcome. All right. Well, let's hop back in here. This is just a gold field here of great stuff. No, not quite done yet. We will keep going just a little bit further here. Again, I certainly do not have the entire deposition. I've just got a little bit more here we can kind of go through. I hope Perry's available. I do too. Somebody will need to call him and get him in. Oh, all right. So let's go back in. He's talking about how he felt that the paperwork, because it was a, worthless clause, that it did not have any meaning. So he didn't feel that he really needed to take a look at it. So let's hop back in. Here we go. The government is in pink and the defendant is in orange. So did you have an understanding of how Mr. Wesselberg was going about making a good faith effort to get these values? Did you know his process? Minor. And what was your understanding? He was a professional. Again, a bank wants to look at the asset. They don't need to see, 100 things that are in with all the footnotes we have in the bank, in the back. We had a lot of footnotes too, in the back of these things. The bank, when they loan money on a specific site, they're really looking at the site more than anything else. And that's what they base it on. But for Mr. Wesselberg's work, preparing the statement, do you understand how he was coming up with these values? Did he tell you? Not much. I mean, they would do it, I think, standard ways. Nobody could ever be expected to go out and hire appraisal firms. It would be too expensive. I'm just trying to understand what you mean when you say the standard ways. I think he just uses good faith. You'd see a property and I think he looked at comparable perhaps, but I never went into it very much. I paid much less credence to this than you would even think. Were there times now, if the clause wasn't in, I would have been much more interested in looking at it. If I had a clause that said, this is a very firm number, we feel it's worth this, we feel it's worth that, this is different. You have a thing that says beware. This is like the beware clause. It's the other thing they call it. Let's go back. I would feel much differently if let's go back to the first page. This court reporter is probably frustrated. Just want to take a look at which one. Which one? The first page of 2014 SOFC. That is Exhibit 3. Exhibit 3. This is the heading is Independent Accountant's Report. I'll give you a moment to find it. Go ahead. And it says, to Donald J. Trump, we have compiled the accompanying statements of financial condition of Donald J. Trump as of June 2014. We have not audited or reviewed the accompanying financial statement and accordingly do not express an opinion or provide any assurance. It's a big statement about whether the financial statement is in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. That's a good statement. It's a statement that Mazars isn't doing any checking. They're not doing anything. And then it says, go down and get your own accountants. Go down and get your own, your own appraisers. It says, do your own statement. Well, let me start with the first one. When they say we have compiled, do you understand what that means from an accounting perspective? Objective form, yeah, it says we have complied. We have compiled, give us whatever it is. And then it goes on to say it doesn't mean anything. Well, the next paragraph reads, Donald J. Trump is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statement in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America for designing, implementing, and maintaining internal control relevant to the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statement. That's right. And that's negated by your last paragraph. Totally. We'll get to the negating paragraph in a moment. No, I mean, it's negated. It says you're responsible for getting your own appraisals, for getting everything. And it says don't pay any credence to this whatsoever. What the other paragraph that alluded to is, yeah, I've got to give them information, but they're coming up with these numbers. But we compile and we give them information, but they're coming up. But if you read every one of these things, go get your own appraisals. We're not responsible. Every paragraph is a kill. I get it. You want to read ahead, but can we focus on this paragraph? No, I don't have to read ahead. Let's just focus on this. Objection. Yeah, we present them with financial statement, with financial information, and then they will figure out whatever it may be. So but if you look at that, because of course we have to give them whatever we have, but in the end it says, regardless of what you're seeing, this doesn't mean anything. But you're preparing, in fact, I have attorneys that are saying this is the strongest worthless clause they've ever seen. Who told you that? Objective form, attorneys. Objection, attorneys. Your attorney or attorneys for my attorneys? Okay. Other attorneys too. Would you like me to get you some names? Counsel, he's telling you the content of advice, so well, no, they say it's the strongest worthless clause they've ever seen, meaning they say the document's worthless, and yet I keep reading myself about it in your leaks. When you leak, but they say this document is worthless. I'd like to get past the second paragraph. Can I ask you what steps you took to meet your responsibility for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statement in accordance with the accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America? Objective form. They would give to the accounting firm whatever information they had on a property, and they would be Mr. McConney and Mr. Wesselberg. Yeah, the accounting group. They give them that information, and they would give them whatever they had. But in the end, it was all negated by what was written here. But they would give them information, obviously. So I don't have to repeat it all the time. If I were to use the term GAAP, would you understand understand that to mean the same thing as accounting principles? Can you read that for me? Read that. The statement says accounting principle generally accepted in the United States of America. If I were to use the phrase GAAP, would you understand that to mean the same thing? I know what GAAP means, but let me just see. What do you have, GAAP, here? The third paragraph? The first sentence, it says the statement. Wait, the third paragraph? I'll reread it, okay? Right here. Donald J. Trump is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of a financial statement in accordance with the accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. And that's what I'm referring to as GAAP. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. That's okay. Yeah? But that's all of that, which is giving them information, is talking about it here. And it said, despite everything stated, do your own statements. The statement means nothing, etc., etc. There are exceptions to the GAAP that are discussed here in what you're saying. Well, the whole thing is an exception to GAAP. Okay, and I'm just wondering, and if you look at the last sentence, that knocks the hell out of everything. I just want to get through this sentence that we're on here. So I'm asking, that sentence is negated by everything else in the worthless clause. Fair enough. But you're saying that you have, this says, remember you said that. Fair enough. What? Remember you said that. It is fair enough. Everything is negated, as you know. So am I understanding then that you were in fact not preparing the statements in accordance with the GAAP? No. Object to the form. We gave them whatever we had to give them. We gave them whatever they had to give. But whatever we gave them, they said that you have to go out and get your own appraisals. You have to go out and get your own accountants. You have to get, regardless of everything, don't rely on this statement that you sued me over. Don't rely. You sued me over a statement, essentially. Now, here's the real thing. The statement that you sued me over, you said the numbers were very wrong in the sense that I defrauded banks by using them. Even the banks were fully paid and had no complaints, and to this day have no complaints, right? You sued me. What you did is a terrible thing, but now it turns out that the numbers not only weren't low, the numbers that were here turned out to be low, not high. I didn't give high numbers. Based on today's values, these numbers are really low. You see, you said I gave numbers that were too high. Actually, these numbers are too low, because if you look at the values, which we will present to you in court, you will see that this statement turned out to be just the opposite of what you sued me for. I get it. You're already in court. I'm just trying to focus on this sentence. No, I'm in court. I know. I consider myself in court. You were preparing the statement with leakers. According to the GAAP, is that your understanding that these statements, when they came out of the Trump organization, I guess I gave them object to the form, other than it says here. I mean, the document speaks for itself. We're going around and around when the document itself lists all these exceptions to the GAAP. So I don't even understand the line of questioning. I'm sorry, but I just don't. It makes no sense, because my question hasn't been answered multiple times, but I've asked, but the question doesn't make sense in the context of the document you have in front of you. Chris, it's true. You're not testifying. Kevin asked and answered. Can we move on, please? We have not moved on. Ask your questions. I'm asking what steps, Mr. Trump. 2, I'm going to start again. How can it be more simple? Let him ask his question. No one has answered my question, and my question is, what steps did you take to make sure that the statements were prepared according to the GAAP? Objective form. The document speaks important itself. It doesn't speak for itself, Chris. It does. We gave information. If the information were short, then Mazars would have asked for more. If they weren't getting everything they wanted, they would have asked for more. They know what GAAP is a lot better than you do or anyone else does. So if they needed additional information, they would have asked for it. If they had any complaints, they would have said, we're not going to do the statements. They did the statement, so they were satisfied. Whether it's GAAP or not GAAP, they were satisfied. But then you look at all these other paragraphs and all of that's negated. And because of the fact that Mazars just didn't know, and frankly, nobody really knows, they didn't know. They wanted to have a statement saying that all of this stuff, everything here is worthless. Read it if you want, but it's worthless. That's why when you say that a bank borrowed money on my statement, and yet they read 2 pages worth of stuff saying, don't rely on this, it says, don't rely on management, don't rely on anything, right in here, as clear as you can. And very good lawyers have told me this is the case. These should not have been brought because of the worthless clause. They said, I can't believe have been brought because of the worthless clause. They said, I can't believe it. And when people read this clause, they say, how the hell could they have sued you and put you through this stuff? Because you believed a guy named Michael Cohen, who is he's a liar. He's a liar. He just tried to get himself out of trouble, and he used you. You people were used. You testified. Just for the record, there's no waiver on attorney-client privilege implied. I know that was your point earlier. He's speaking in general terms about what? About what lawyers have said. About what lawyers have told you. Objection to form. You're not providing any specific details. I'm just telling you, I know, right? You're not waiving any specific advice. Well, yeah, okay, excuse me. My lawyers have told me they've seen this clause, because you leak everything. But they've seen this clause. They can't believe that we're being sued by the Attorney General of New York after reading what they consider to be the most horrendous, from the standpoint of a developer, clause that they've ever seen. They've never seen a clause like this. Very few statements, a lot of times you'll have a worthless clause that's half of a paragraph long. This thing goes on for a page and a half and tells you how bad everything is. Don't believe it. It says, don't believe anything in here, and this is what I'm being sued on. I'm just going to go back. When I asked, I think you should release me from this case. This is ridiculous. We gave you information. And even the press agrees with me, Mr. Trump. How much time do we have left, Alex? If you guys are going to waste my time here, I'm not wasting your time. We're going to go to court. I don't know what you're going to go to court over. Bring him in another day. I don't know what you're going to court over. He answered your questions, Kevin. He answered your question. All right, we're wasting time on that. Let's keep going. Mr. Trump, you said that I asked you what the process was for making sure information you gave to Mazars was consistent with the GAAP. You said we gave information. If the information was short, then Mazars would have asked for it. If it was short, right. So how did you know if the information that was given was consistent with the GAAP? Object to the form. I only know that we gave them whatever they needed or they requested, because this is, again, this is their statement. No, it says Donald J. Trump is responsible for the preparation of fair presentation. I don't mean that. This is their statement. This whole worthless clause, this is their statement. Yes, we gave them whatever they needed. Whatever they needed something, we gave it. If it wasn't acceptable to them, they would not do the statement. So we gave them whatever they needed. They determined GAAP more than our people determined GAAP. We gave them whatever we had, whatever they needed. If they were short, they would have done this. They wouldn't have done the statement. So you're relying upon Mazars to tell you if this wasn't up to GAAP. Well, their objection to the form, they're our certified public accountants. I'm not. We gave them everything they needed. If they needed something else, they came to us. They would give them something else. The point is, whatever they needed. Now, if they didn't get what they wanted, whether it was GAAP or otherwise, but let's say it's GAAP, then they wouldn't do the statement, and they did the statements. To meet your obligation here of presenting the information in accounting in accordance with GAAP, was Alan Wesselberg responsible for that? Object to the form? I would say yes. Okay. He and the people you worked with, Mr. McConney? Probably. Object to the form. Anyone else you're aware of? No, but look, okay. It's simpler than that. When, in this case, it was Wesser clause. Wesser. It was Wesser. Because, like I told you, they all became rich because they had me as a client. They kept merging. Wesser Mazars? Right. Or this is Wesser. This says Wesser. When then this is Wesser Mazars, one of the other names changes. When they needed something, they would ask for it. And if they needed something else, they would ask for it. When they were satisfied that they had, according to the GAAP, according to you, then they do a statement. But the statement was essentially meaningless because of the clause. It wasn't a statement that a bank would say, oh gee, let's loan Trump a lot of money, even though they're giving us a statement that says it has absolutely no meaning. I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly, though. Apart from the work being performed by Mr. Wesselberg and Mr. McConney, you're not aware of any other steps the Trump organization was taking to make sure the financial reporting was consistent with GAAP? Object to the form. Objection! Not that I know of. I do know this. Mazars or Wiser, whatever you want to call it at the time, would ask for things when they were compiling statements, and whatever they asked for, we gave them. The second half of the sentence we've been looking at says that you're responsible, quote, for designing, implementing, and maintaining internal control relevant to the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statement. Can you tell me what steps you took to design, implement, and maintain internal control? Object to the form. That I hold it. You have to read it, actually. I don't see it here, indicating. Yeah, every single thing they wanted, we gave them. They're the accounting firm. We're not. Every single thing they asked for, they got. Now, if they didn't get it, then they would not do the statement. We had, I think I remember a case a long time ago where I was much more involved, where they wanted information. And if you couldn't have gotten the information, I don't think they would have done the statement. But every single thing they wanted, they got. And if they didn't, they wouldn't do the statement. The portion I was quoting talked about the internal controls at the Trump organization. And I'm just asking if you can tell me, well, they were, what I did. What were the internal controls? What did I do about internal controls? Yes, I hired Mazars and I paid them a lot of money to watch what was going on. And they were the primary internal control. They were the accounting firm. They were very expensive, highly thought of at the time. I don't know if they are anymore, but they were highly thought of at the time. They were big, highly thought of, and I paid a lot of money. I mean, I'm not an accountant. I don't sit there and go over the numbers. I paid this particular accounting firm a great deal of money to do audits and to do all those things that you're talking about. So when you say, what do? I hired an accounting firm to make sure everything was good. Okay. Take a look at the next paragraph. So let's pause here, everybody. Oh my gosh, these attorneys. My goodness, they're fighting each other a lot. Oh. Okay, everybody, what are our thoughts at this point? Yes, he did finally answer. You're right. He did answer. It took him so long to answer that question. Oh, Ron, thanks. I do try. His attorneys, Perry Mason. Perry Mason, thanks for joining. If only they had hired you, Perry. 125 pages later, he answered. He did. He did. His just come off as word salad. Yes. Oh, the worthless clause. Yes. Baffled. I too am baffled. I agree. I am also baffled. Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Perry. Am I an attorney? I am an attorney. Yes, I am. All this before lunch. I know. Look at this. We're an hour out before lunch. I mean, us personally, we're not. Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. CPA in the chat. Oh, love that. Yeah, this is a lot of work going on in here. What's your green ring? Oh, sure. This is just a mood ring tonight, so it changes colors a lot depending on what's going on. This deposition was taken in April of this year, and this has been set for trial the first week in October. So I wish someone would sue me. It was blue. Yes, it was. Yeah, it changes color. Still here. Oh, we love to hear that. Evan, what do you think? Is this kind of some craziness? Is this normal? Do people do this? I mean, I'm not a business law attorney, but just the basic understandings of business seems like it's a bit of a mess. Your mom had a mood ring years ago. Yes, it's so fun. Audit of Big Four. Really? What kind of attorney am I? I do a lot of different things. I do a lot of different kinds of work, but glad I could be here. Yeah, thanks. It turns pink. Yeah, it turns lots of different colors. It's kind of fun when we've got a big document that we're going through. So this was a fun request. He's running out of time. Yeah, it seems like it. It seems like it. That's not, oh, thanks. Back in the 80s. Yes, I agree. Those involved in real estate. Yes, please comment. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What you're reading is more dark and blues. Yeah. Well, you know, it does change color depending on what's going on. There were a few times I needed to take a moment. Oh, yes, yes. Oh, the colors, honestly, I think the colors just change with temperature is my guess. Can't wait to see him try on the glove. Right, right. If it doesn't fit, right? Can you just put things off on the accountants? That's a great question, but you know, typically you would, but this attorney keeps showing him this document stating he still needs to have a role to play. He still has to have the final say in everything. So even though his accountants are taking care of this, he still has to sign off on it. He can't just push things on the accountants. Right, right. He still has a role to play. Yeah, you're still responsible. Yep, you got it, empathy. You got it. Yeah. Oh, do I need another drink? I tell you later on, I am hydrating. You can delegate authority, but not responsibility. Oh, that's exceptionally well put, Linda. Yes. Oh, very well. So you can delegate authority, but not responsibility. Oh, I love that. I love that. Excellent. What deposition is this? This is the deposition out of New York. And this is what's the civil case that's been going on here. I've got a lot of papers I've gone through. So let me see if I can pull that first page up again. But this was for the civil lawsuit in New York where the district attorney is pulling in. Here we go. Here's the first page. So we've got the people of New York versus Donald Trump et al. So this was done April, and this particular deposition, and this was part of Exhibit B, which just became public. So that's why we can go through it now. Let me know if you need advice on vocal health. Oh, Amanda, that's so sweet of you. Yeah, sometimes my voice gets a little rumbly. I had actually a vocal injury in college, and so sometimes it kind of comes in and out a little bit sometimes, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good overall. Thank you so much, though, Amanda. That's so kind of you. Oh my gosh, that's so sweet. Will there be a Pettit trial? It looks like it. It looks like it's going to trial. I think October 2nd? Gets a couple of drinks after the depo. Yes, a couple minimum. CPA work in accounting. He can't just blame other accountants. Yeah. Now, bankruptcy so many times. Yeah, there were a lot of bankruptcies. You know, I think some people forget how many times he was actually called out or did file bankruptcy. There were a lot of cases. I think the one that is, for me, that I remember the most has been right after his first divorce, was my understanding. That seemed like was one of his bigger ones. I'm not sure if that was his first or second bankruptcy, but I'm not a lawyer, but I played one on TV. I love that. Who bankrupts a casino? Well, yeah, it's a great question. Great and valid question. Yeah. What was the basis of the lawsuit? Undervaluation and tax evasion. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. I've not read the entire petition. It's pretty hardy. But yeah, I think we've got fraudulent, deceptive practices in New York. And so by putting in, I'm sorry, I'm digging through my papers here to see if I can pull out the petition. I don't have it tonight. I don't have it at my fingertips, but yeah, it was because the information was fraudulent in order to get loans from banks, and then also with some of the tax information as well. But the suit is for $250 million. That's what the suit is for, along with an injunction of not being able to do business in New York. And what would be the effect if he can't do business in New York? It looks like he still does have some business going on in New York. So if he is found liable and is not allowed to do it, what would happen? I'm not really sure. Incredibly interesting. Oh, thanks, Ron. Thanks. Oh, the mods. Oh, the mods. So amazing. I'm so thankful for each and every one of you. Values were too high. So, right, the values were too high in order to get the bank loans, but too low for the taxes, I think is something we were talking about. His family will run the business. Okay. Okay. Gap like the store. I think too many comments. It wasn't seen. All good. Yeah. I think there's a couple of different ways to say it. That's why I just use the letters, especially if we've got anyone who's not a native English speaker in here. So, okay. Yes. Oh, I'm so thankful for my moderators. They are all so hardworking. Okay. Gap. Got it. Gap. We have, in my world, we have something called bridge the gap, which has a specific meaning. So GAAP, not gap. Okay. So, right. So for me, I just say GAAP, repeatedly. That's just works the best for me, but I am notorious. I do say a lot of different things incorrectly. a lot, for sure. Interesting and entertaining. Yes, well, it certainly is very interesting. Weissenberg got out of Rikers in April, changed lawyers, still could testify in this case. Really? That's interesting. That's very interesting. Now, I did not know that. I did not know there was time being served. So somebody asked what the GAAP is. Let me see if I can find the wording here, which he's specifically using. Let me just go back here for a minute. Can you read the first question? Oh, the very first question in the very first page of the deposition? Is that what you're meaning? General accepted accounting principles. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah, Renee, are you meaning the very first from the very first page? Because the very first question was objected to. Yeah? Was that? Yes. Okay, sure. Let me grab the first page out. One moment, please. Let's see here. Let me get to the very first. So the first kind of introductory questions were specific to, you have the right, you can plead the fifth. But when the first examination came in, when they very first started this deposition, which starts page 18, you can find this online, by the way. So the examination by Mr. Wallace, which is the government attorney, his very first question was, I'd like to start with your role in the Trump organization. Let me start way in the past. Is it correct you established a Trump organization in 1980 as an umbrella organization for all of your real estate development and corporate affiliations or affiliates? Now, you'll see right after he asked his very first question, Mr. Trump's attorney objected to form. So right after his question, we had an objection to form, and then the answer was yes. So that's the very first question that we're asked. There are about 500 pages to the document. I certainly did not print them all out, even me, and I print everything out, but this one was too much. So, yeah, just starting right out, just with a very simple question of what the role is, and then just when it started, and we had an objection to form. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you very much. Do you have an example set of financial statements to give a visual for the chat? I do not. No, I don't. There were a lot of exhibits that were available, but no, I didn't. I'm so far buried in so much paperwork for tonight. I just didn't. Objection to form. Yeah, yeah. Objection to form just means that he's saying your question can be easily misunderstood. Oh, thank you. It's a classic objection. It usually is something to just kind of save space in the question to the judge. So it's not a particularly, it's not like an objection relevance or objection hearsay or objection to asked and answered, any of those objections. Objection to form is where they're criticizing the actual way the question was asked, which, isn't necessarily the most important objection, but it still saves place, sets a place in the record showing that there was an objection to the question. So if eventually the answer is used in court, they can come and kind of fight out because he's reserved this objection on the record. You're welcome. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm happy to kind of go through and explain things as best as I can. This is the New York civil case. Now, I've not spent too much time on New York. This was a special request, and I think a very fun request. I had so many people ask me to read through this, and with good reason. I'm very thankful for the suggestion. It was hilarious. Is the worthless clause a real thing? I don't know, Heather. That's a great question. Does anyone in the business law world know that? I'm going to spend some time looking that up, actually, because I've not heard of that. It seems like the glamour, the Mona Lisa, there's a lot of terms here that he's kind of got his own phrases for. So it looks like it's a disclaimer form is what he's talking about, but he's renaming it the worthless clause. Yeah, I think he's misunderstanding the disclaimer. Yeah, the disclaimer is a real thing. Absolutely, claimant. You got it. It's a true thing. But he's renaming it. Not in real estate? Okay, not in real estate. Yeah, the crazy, a bit funny. Yes, oh, thanks. Yeah, I know. We've got so many cases going on. Criminal, civil, it's a lot. It's a lot. But, learning should be fun. The language to the type of opinion the auditors give. Okay, thanks, Evan. Appreciate that. So the language that's being used. I got it. So, because the disclaimer clause, now that sounds familiar. That's taking me back to Business Law 101. But yeah, he's definitely got his own way of stating different things. Flashy language attempting to confuse. I think so. Or maybe a way for him to remember things easier. I think sometimes we kind of rename stuff that we don't quite get, and we put it to a name that we can remember easier. So that could be different types of reports an audit can give to accompany the financial. Okay, excellent. If bond out or not a threat to society, you get 3 months in the feds. Okay, he's confused. Well, I don't know. I think also though the intonations of how he's rephrasing things tend to have kind of that negative spin to it though, doesn't it? I think so. Yeah, and I wasn't sure about the book he had been talking about writing. This is the worst. It's an actual cautionary mark to not use the FS. Really? Oh, that's very interesting. Some of it sounds like an act. I agree. Renaming to change the narrative. Yeah, and I think you can rename some things too as part of your process of gaslighting. I think that is absolutely a possibility. Oh, good night, Greg. Thanks for coming by. Thanks for your time. Always good to see you. I would call him. Okay, could be. He's basing his whole case on the disclaimer. Don't take this statement as fact, do your own. Yeah, it seems like Eddie, he's really focusing hard on that. And I'm not sure that's necessarily going to be helpful for him. I wouldn't call him positive. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that. As they are what you use too. You use industry terms as they are what you use to. Sure, that makes sense. Not an audit, it was a compilation, so standards are different, but he is responsible. Interesting. Okay. I think so much more information is coming out about how this all works. Things I had never known before, for sure. I got annual statements from an accountant, which were audited. They were dependent on information provided. Okay, I see. So he's trying to say dependent on what information we gave him. But on the other hand, that's true for a lot of things. He should be like us. Totally. We have to do it. True. Completion versus the audit. Yeah, these are lots of new terms, lots of new standards that have to be used that I've never heard of before. He has no idea what he's doing, but is so responsible. Okay, that's fine. To each their own. You know, we all have our own way of handling things for sure. But are we done reading? Yes, I think for tonight, everyone, I will have to finish my reading just kind of for tonight. We made it through a couple hundred pages here, so front back, here's my stack that we made it through. I think I will need to call it good for tonight. Oh, thank you. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome, everybody. You're welcome. Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't do the whole thing, but oh, we got to enough. I think we did pretty good. Great job. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. But yes, I will be back on again. I'm always on for sure on Mondays and Thursdays, and then I just do bonus lives as things come up and new information comes out. Typically, I focus on the criminal cases. Today was kind of a special treat. Thank you. When we finish, yeah, we'll kind of do a little Q&A here, just to chat a few more minutes here, but then I will probably need to head out. I'm trying to keep my lives under 4 hours. It's just easier to upload them onto YouTube up to there. So, yeah, I'll have to take a look at that. Continuance. Yeah, I probably won't read through much more of this deposition. I think we've got a lot of the good pieces out already. Oh, thank you so much. But we do have some very interesting things happening, you know, out of Georgia and out of DC and Florida. So, and of course, as soon as we get the findings on the hearing for Meadows, I will come on and go through those orders. We did just have briefs that were filed in Georgia, and so we're kind of waiting to hear back on the judge from that. So I will absolutely be coming on whenever there are any major orders or things that come out on Georgia, DC, and Florida. I definitely will be coming back on. Yes, the Mark Meadows removal is huge. It's a huge deal. So, you know, that's a lot of focus is in that situation. I've also been kind of pulling some depositions, and I'll be posting some clips of different people's depositions also. So just to kind of add to the evidence that we've been looking at, because it's really important, I think, to actually look to the evidence when we're dealing with these cases. So yes. Oh, yep. It's turning blue. Can you get his financial statements? I'm not sure. I'm really not, the finances stuff is just really not my forte. I'm much better with the criminal stuff. So did you realize you had 1.8K? Oh, yes. KC. Yes. You know, actually, yesterday I hit 4.5 at one point. But anything, you know, with numbers that large, I'm just so thankful that people are just swinging by. I'm so thankful, very thankful. He's charged in Texas. Yeah, I don't think Texas is going to charge. Texas is the only state that actually sued another state claiming the other state's voting was fraudulent, which is atrocious. So I don't think that we're going to have any of that. What do you think on it so far, in your opinion? For this, I think he's in some serious trouble in New York. And, you know, again, we've got preponderance of the evidence in a civil case, much different standard than criminal. So I've got no doubt she's pretty hardcore. Texas has no standing. That's exactly right. That was exactly right. Mark Meadows removed. Not yet. We don't have an answer on Mark Meadows yet. We don't have the answer. We're waiting on the judge's decision. Hoped it would have come out last week, but it just didn't. So we are waiting on that. But this case will be going to trial in the first week in October. Now, we do have 2 speedies set for trial in the Georgia case for October. We've got some pretty big motions coming down in the DC case too. So there's lots going on. So I will be on talking about that. Thoughts on Georgia selling trademark? I, first of all, love that for them. Fascinating. And I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure if mugshots are in the public domain or not. So that's going to be very interesting to watch. Preponderance of the evidence means more likely than not. It means 51%. So more likely than not is more of administrative for kind of our clear and concise evidence standard for more quasi-criminal or administrative. But for preponderance of the evidence, it means one person is 51% more at fault. So whoever has that 51% or more is the one who is found to be liable for the situation. So that's how we kind of weigh out our preponderance. Oh, you bet. You're welcome. You're welcome. Great questions, everybody. Love to get those questions in. So it would have come out last week. You may be right, Perry. You may be right. Thank you for all you do. Simplifying the law language. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I hope it's helpful and, interesting. It can be very difficult. These are kind of tough times, and there's so much legal stuff coming out, and, there's a lot of bad information that's coming out too. So I think it's important to really have a good source that you can just say what actually is happening and then make your choices based off of that. If you come around, what time you would, so I can look forward to it. Sure. I usually, when I do go live, I start about 6 p.m. Central Time. That's really kind of the best time for me with my schedule. I'm always Mondays and Thursdays, but sometimes I do pop on other days if more information has come out. So also I've been kind of hopping on to put extra evidence out and talk about that. But typically it's that 6 o'clock Central Time is really the key time. So you can kind of look for me then. If I do a bonus, it will be around that particular time. So thank you. Yes. Oh, Della. Yes. We love Della. She's amazing. But I will go ahead and sign off for tonight, everyone, just so I can make sure that I get everything uploaded. Yeah, I think it's hard to find through our news systems. That's why for me, I like to just get the court documents. I just look at documents. I don't really make any, it's up to you to kind of decide what you want to believe. That I think is really up to every individual. But I will absolutely am happy to go through the documents, explain how things work to you. So yes. Thank you. Oh, yes. And you too, Suze. Have a great night. And Mysterious. Thank you. Yes. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I will go ahead and sign off. I did just post one up on YouTube today. I've got 2 more. So this one and then yesterday's that will be posted very, very soon for everyone. So have a fantastic evening, everybody. Take care. And I will see you all very, very soon. Have a great night. Thanks again for coming.